Yeah, there's no sound.
Hear everybody now.
Can we hear?
Yeah. Let me turn you guys up a little bit.
Can you hear us?
Hear everybody now.
Okay. I can hear me.
Let me turn you guys up a little bit. Can you hear everybody now?
Okay, I think we can hear everyone.
Yeah. Okay, we're good?
Yeah, I think we're good. Can you guys
Okay.
hear me and everything?
I can hear, well, I can hear you on Discord, but
I can hear you on Discord also. Do we? I think we hear Cassidy fine. Cassidy, say something for me.
Something for me?
Yep, you're fine. You're fine. We're all fine.
Okay.
Mahogany, could you say something, please? Okay, yep, Mahogany's fine too. Okay, we're all good. We're all good to go. Okay, guys, we are starting officially now. If you guys could go and post in your respective social medias for us starting at the moment, and I'm gonna do the same. If you're watching right now, what was the question, Kat?
I'm going to share a link in the group chat.
I am going to share the link in the group chat. I'm actually going to get the link right now. I just can't do anything on my computer because it's being used for the broadcast. But I'm going to go grab the link for us. Let's see, where's she at? Where's she at? There she is. There she is.
I'm like wondering if I should like post a link in the fish tank.
Post the link anywhere you want. Those girls watch us too. They may not all like us, but they do definitely watch us. Okay, let's see.
I should post it in our Mushroom print.
Why does that look like that? Oh, that's the beginning of the stream. No wonder.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, yeah, I think we're good now. Let's see. Let me go ahead and get that link ready. Put that in Messenger. If you're watching this already, or if you're getting ready to watch this, please share this link, or at least the stream, guys, because that would be great for us. Thank you. Okay, I'm putting it in the Messenger now. And then I'm gonna need to bring this up. Let me put this on my Twitter. This is so cute. I'm so glad that I did the little overlay because it looks so much better than the freaking Google Hangouts. It's just a little bit more complicated. Okay.
It is cute though.
It's adorable. I was gonna put us in an actual dollhouse, and then the problem was that like there were too many of us, and then Nora didn't show up anyway, so I could have done it. If you guys are here, I know I was gonna put us in the windows. It was really cute. If you guys are watching already, or if you're watching this later, Nora unfortunately could not join us today. She had prior engagements, but she sends her love, and we have her picture in the corner to represent her as somebody who was going to be in it. So it'll just be me, Cassidy, Catherine, and Maho. Let's see. Sorry, guys, I'm making a tweet real quick. While we do that, let's go ahead and get started with our questions. That way I can do that while I'm talking. So I'm gonna say let's go around. We'll start with Mahogany, and just tell us what you've been doing lately. What your life's been like since you left the dollhouse.
Okay. Well, let's see. Since I left the dollhouse, I've been working retail. That is my thing now. I'm good at it. I make music now. I'm no longer an actress. I'm an actress in life. My dreams of an Oscar are no longer here. Made.
Oh, I remember you were so serious about that too. Oh no, this messed up. No, our thing messed up because Kat left. Damn it. 1 second. Keep talking, honey. You're fine. Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't act anymore. I would do it, but it's not really my thing. Now I make music. I rap. I don't date white men anymore. I only date black men now. That's
a thing. That's a thing.
That is a thing, girl.
Yeah.
I don't even eat hot Cheetos. Like, everything has changed. I wear my real hair. I do shit. I live a very cis-normative life for the most part. And yeah, that's pretty much it. My life is boring.
Okay, so before we go any further, sorry, I see that the screen's messed up right now. I apologize. We have one member who is kind of falling out of the conversation every once in a while, and because of that, it has messed up the cameras. So if we can't get Kat like completely 100% on board with everything, we might just have to have her do like voice with a picture, because if it keeps resetting our cameras, all of our cameras, even though we're working just fine, that's not going to work. So if Kat for some reason can't get that fixed, we're just gonna have her picture up. And I'm sorry that like everybody's not shown right now 100%. But she will be back in a second, hopefully. Cassidy, you can probably hear her. What would you say you've been doing since you left the dollhouse?
I have been not doing a whole lot. I mean, I've been doing a lot individually. I mean, not individually, but personally. Just nothing really outside of myself. I moved to Kentucky and I live with family. And I mean, on and off the past few years, I've been going back and forth, taking care of my family in California, my parents. And yeah, but I'm going to be starting. I'm going to be starting to look for a job soon. I'm going to be working in the restaurant industry, and I'm going to hopefully be starting school soon after that. Maybe I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to go for. Maybe nutrition or esthetician, something of the sort. Yeah, that's about all I've been up to.
Cool, cool. Okay, well, Kat, since you're back, lovely Kat,
Yes.
there she is.
Hold on, just
It's fine, it's fine. She's getting into her seat. She's adjusting, but she is here. Okay, Kat.
wait, hold on. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. We understand that there are some technical issues. Listen, this is the internet. Not everything is perfect. We're trying our best. Kat, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you've been up to lately?
Yeah. So I have. Oh my God. Let me adjust this one more time. Sorry about that.
It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry.
It is a mess in progress. I have been. Let's see. It's been about 5 years. I have moved into the white collar world, living very much that cis, boring white lifestyle. I'm in commercial real estate finance for new construction developments, which is about as dry as it sounds and broy as it sounds. Making my way, trying to save up, single at the moment. Yeah, just I had SRS. I don't know, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. That's about it, and living my life.
Cool, cool. Okay, guys, so I am next, I guess. I pretty much have done a lot of different things since I left the dollhouse. I moved to Los Angeles from Northern California. I'm still doing the same thing that I was doing before. I do stream on Twitch now also. So that's a thing. I stream on Twitch. I'm pretty regular Twitch streamer now, so I play video games and do stuff like that. I am still a cam girl, and I'm very honest about that. It's still hard to make money as a trans woman, and I'm not willing to settle for anything other than just having money. So I still do that. Besides that, I really don't go out or do a whole lot. I love Los Angeles, don't get me wrong, but once you've been in LA for a minute, you start to get over it very quickly. West Hollywood gets old very fast, and so now I just kind of stay home with my lovely roommates. I work a lot, but I'm trying to get back into these kinds of projects. I feel like there's still quite a bit that can be done for the trans community. I feel like there's more opinions that could be heard, and I almost feel like with YouTube in general, it's almost started to go in like not a plastic way, but it's like I don't feel like we really know these girls as well as we knew the girls in the dollhouse. It's not as personal. But yeah, so that's me. That's what I've been up to. Besides that, you know, I'm just out here trying to survive. But the rent's paid, so that's all we really got to worry about here. Let's see. The next question. Okay, so I thought that it would be fun to go through some of our old video topics and get our new opinions on these topics. Because we've obviously probably changed. Some of them might be the same. And also, some of these girls, we have 2 Tuesdays. I just want to make it clear. We have Maho. What was your original day, Maho?
Friday.
Friday. I was Wednesday. Cassidy, you were?
Tuesday.
And then Kat actually also was?
Replacement Tuesday.
Yep.
Like, I was at the very tail end of the dollhouse.
Very tail end.
I was the first replacement Tuesday.
She's like, I'm proud I was the first replacement. So yeah, so some of these girls haven't even answered these questions yet because they weren't there when they were originally asked. You don't have to go super in depth, but you're allowed to go as deep into it as you want. And I'm just going to randomly bring up a few topics. I'll share my opinion first, and then we'll go in the order of like Maho, Cassidy, and then Catherine, I'm sorry. And like I said, if you guys don't want to talk about it, it's totally also a thing. You don't have to. But we're going to go ahead and get started on some of these topics. Okay, so because I know we have a lot to say, and it was a topic that had come up a lot, and it was one of our most controversial topics. We'll start with that one. Start with the controversy. Why not? Was trans trenders. So we had made a topic on the Dollhouse about what we had observed at that time, which was a different time in history. A lot of people had barely started to understand what trans was. And so we had made a topic about people who transition because it's trendy. And now it's gotten even more trendy. And now we see even more trans people in the media. And we have non-binary people also in the media. And I feel like a lot of the people that we may have perceived as transgenders in the past are now considered to be non-binary. And so it's something that we're gonna have to kind of, I don't know. We really have to get into the meat of what maybe the difference is. But to me, they may not necessarily be the same thing. I think non-binary is kind of different. But I don't know. I think the original transgenders topic got so much kickback because people just don't want to ever assume that people transition for the wrong reasons, which I think we know is not necessarily the case. Like, people do transition for reasons other than what is the norm. I try to push that it's not ever a wrong reason. For example, if you want to transition, that's your business. Do you know what I'm saying? I think where we start to get into issues is when we start to talk for each other's communities and we don't exactly understand each other's opinions. So that's my brief synopsis. That's basically what I said originally. I'm going to go ahead and leave it over to Maho now. So what is your opinion on transgenders and the non-binary movement, and your experiences with that in 2019?
I think I don't even remember what I said back then. But I do believe that trans trending is a very real thing. I believe that the non-binary community and the trans community are two very separate entities. I think they both deserve respect. Everyone deserves to be respected and loved and all that. That's all gravy and it's nice. But like you said, I don't think that certain people should talk on certain things. I'm not non-binary. I don't know that struggle. So I'm not going to speak on them. But so I expect the same from them. I think in the media now, what you see a lot is a lot of non-binary people, genderqueer people, people who have no gender at all, speaking up for trans women, when in reality our journeys are very different. And I just wish that the media, it really is the fault of the media, because what the media does, since the media is heteronormative, what the media does is they group us all together and say, oh, this is something different, they're all the same, we're going to cover everybody like they're the same, but it really isn't. But I do think that the non-binary community has taken that and run with it, and now they're profiting off of our lives, our deaths, and our struggles as trans people and trans women, of course. As a Black trans woman, I say this on Facebook. If you follow me on Facebook, I say this a lot. But my life expectancy is 32, I believe, 2 or 35 years old. So if that's my life expectancy, I really don't want to hear what somebody who, and this is no shade, but this is just the truth. If you have a beard and you put eye makeup on and you wear a dress and you leave your house and you want to be called a woman, I don't want to hear your opinion. Because the girls who are getting killed, they look like me. They're cunt, they're fish, they're beautiful. And we're still dying at rates that are absolutely horrible. And we are not getting the same coverage as someone like a Jacob as they would, or an Alec would. But they're profiting off of being trans and that trans struggle.
Yeah.
So I do think that trans trending is real. If you want to transition, do whatever the hell you want to do, because that's your money. So transition is money, baby. It's money. It's money, and it's dealing with how society is going to treat you and how society is now going to turn their back on you. So if you want to do that so you can, get barebacked in your house with a wig on, that's up to you. That's not really that, and that's no shade. Like, it really is no shade. And when I say no shade, I mean that's no. But that is the truth. Like, there are literally people out there who transition for that reason, and then there are like the women on this chat who have transitioned because they're women and because of dysphoria and because of certain things in their life that drove them to transition to live their truth.
Mhm.
There's a big distinction between the two, but do whatever you want to do. Just don't speak for me.
Mhm.
Don't speak for my sisters. And don't profit off of our lives and our deaths
Mhm.
because we're not profiting off of it. I mean, unless you're on pose. But other than that, girl, we ain't profiting. So, yeah, that's how I feel.
Okay. So Cassidy, springing off of what Maho said, what are your opinions on transgenders and the rising presence of non-binary people in 2019?
I almost feel like I can't really add anything better. I mean, I definitely agree with Mahogany. I've talked about it with many of my friends before. I think non-binary people are extremely valid, and non-binary people's experience are valid, but they're not transgender experiences, and I think we've turned the term transgender into something that I don't think it should be becoming. Because when you see, like Mahogany said, when you see these non-binary people on television, on the news, they are being called transgender. There's no distinction, there's no separation between us and them. It reminds me of, the idea that we are these cross-dressing perverts going into bathrooms. And there's no distinction that we are separate from those people. Whenever people want to talk about transgender, they put images up of people that look nothing like any of us.
Mhm.
They look like non-binary people, they look like cross-dressers, they look like literal straight men wearing wigs for Halloween. And that is seen, and it's a disservice to us, and it's a disservice to our struggles and our experiences that we live. And that's the news. The news is sensational. They want that. They want the people that are going to bring in the most views. They want the controversy, and that's what it is. And that's the most unfortunate part of it all, is that there's no genuine interest in helping us out. Us binary trans women,
Mhm.
trans men. And yeah, I think it's really, really, really shitty.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially what you said about the disservice. We'll talk more on that in a second. Kat, we're talking about non-binary people and trans trending. I don't think you were there originally for that topic, but trans trending was kind of a topic we did based on what we had seen at the time, which was a rise in transitioners who didn't necessarily have the most clear-cut perspective of what their transition was in comparison to what we had defined it in the past. And maybe their connection to non-binary people now. What are your opinions on trans trending or non-binary people in 2019?
I mean, it's pretty much what's echoing what everyone else has said in here. I do feel they're a different subset under the gender identity umbrella. I don't see them the same as me, and that's not like they're less or worse. They're just different. I do find it interesting that, people like India Moore, who very strongly identified as a trans woman now identifies as non-binary, which is interesting. But I guess in my own context too, I have sort of changed in how I view my own gender too. Whereas I kind of, I guess I don't even really know what I am, so to speak, more or less. Like, so I've kind of eased up on it. Like, I used to be like hardcore, like, no, this is bad. But now it's just kind of more so like, whatever.
Okay, cool. So to open up the greater conversation now, we'll kind of all just, talk to each other about this. Do you think that so are you saying that you don't necessarily just identify as a trans woman anymore, or you just aren't as persistent about pursuing that title?
I mean, I guess I'm not so pursuant in that title, so to speak. Like, I enjoy being feminine. I enjoy my womanhood and stuff like that. But I'm approaching it almost from more of like a radical feminist kind of perspective of like gender, not just gender being a construct all in its own right too, which is really kind of starting to resonate more with me. So I'm just like, what does that make me, so to speak? And this isn't like some like in-depth like, oh, I'm opposing gender. I've just kind of am starting to understand what it means to me more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And to be fair, like, I think there is something to be said about trans women and the way we live our lives and how they are different than cis women. And we will always kind of be reminded of the differences, regardless of whether or not we want to be. You know, I think that our lives are evolving as trans women. Also, I think the expectations of us are being loosened a little bit. Do you know what I'm saying? While we do have some girls out here who are done up to the nines and who have had surgery and all these different things, I think people who are non-binary that exist now put us kind of in more of a middle place. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we make the effort to look female. That's kind of the overarch here. And let's be fair, a lot of us do it because of safety reasons. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, when I go out at the end of the day and I'm trying to present female because that's what I identify with, and when I change my voice and do things in public, that's because I genuinely am concerned for my safety. That's not because I want to impress some guy. That's not because I want to impress the girls around me. That's not because I want people to accept me. It's because I'm genuinely afraid of somebody literally trying to do something to me, like, because that's a reality. Do you know what I'm saying? Once somebody recognizes that you're trans, it's immediately like, I might be in danger. You don't know who's around you. If you live in a big city or you live in a place that's not accepting, you're always at risk. And my message to a lot of these younger kids who are non-binary who are coming up is be safe. First of all, do you know what I'm saying? No amount of what you think is your argument is more important than your life. Do you know what I'm saying? You can always protest from the safety of your own home. You can do it in mass with other people. But I see a lot of like scary, just like kind of what India did, which is like, we'll go back to India, who considers herself to be non-binary now. We were talking earlier in private about how she ripped a Trump flag out of somebody's hands. And while I support the notion, do you know what I'm saying? It is a dangerous thing to do in our country. You have no idea how people are going to react when you, first of all, physically touch them in any way. I don't think anybody has the right to touch anybody else. I wouldn't want somebody to come rip a transgender flag out of my hands because they disagreed with it. And if they did, I might physically attack them because that's a big thing to me. Do you know what I'm saying? The trans flag is something that means a lot to me because I'm trans. And I understand that I don't agree with them in Trump, but you know what I'm saying? But they probably feel the same way about their flag. So I can't be on both sides. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't be like, oh, well, I want freedom and I want trans people to have all their rights, and then rip other people's rights out of their hands. And we're not happy about it. Do you know what I'm saying? Obviously. But, you know, like, that's one of the more loud people on that spectrum lately. And she even went as far as to say recently in the headlines that she thought that the plight of non-binary people was greater than the plight of POC trans women in the United States. And we all know that POC trans women are targeted above else. They're the most targeted in probably the world, to be honest. Like, let's be real. Like, let's be 100% real. And I thought it was pretty crazy. Mahogany, what are your opinions on the fights between the non-binary and trans community? What do you think the solution is here between the two of us? Because obviously India was coming from a place where I guess she was having arguments with trans people about this. Do you know what I'm saying? And let's be real. Electra's on the show, who is obviously trans. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even understand how in the show other trans people are okay with her kind of making statements like that, because it is.
I don't get it. I don't get how she makes statements like that when in reality, like, I was just watching a post the other day and I started to tear up because I was like, you have Angelica, you have Dominique, and you have MJ, 3 trans women of color who are proudly trans women of color on screen, and it's something that you don't see. So when India makes statements like that, it's kind of like a slap in the face. But I think where the conversation, where we would really have a common ground, or we would get over some things, is the fact that trans women, or just being trans in general, has not even fully been accepted. It's not something that people agree with. It's not something that people understand. So when you have this one thing that people just a couple years ago were, or for the longest time, have been bashing, but it was really in the media with bathrooms and everything like that, and then that's not even resolved, and you immediately go into non-binary, it's just like, we still have major struggles going on.
Okay, before you continue, just because I feel like we'll get off topic. So the bathroom issue was one of the biggest issues we faced in the past couple of years, and that's probably something that's affected all of us the most because we all have to go to the fucking bathroom. So at the end of the day, that's kind of where I start to have an issue because the question is if we have male and female bathrooms, and I'm perfectly fine with unisex bathrooms. I've always been that person because personally, I don't like being in the restroom with other people. So I would prefer to use a separate restroom that is probably by itself. You know, usually they have like a changing table in there. It's like a family restroom, whatever. But I would prefer that. But the question is, where do you put people in the bathrooms? Do you know, when people start kind of, I'm non-binary, what is it that you want to be in whatever bathroom you want to be in at the time? And I don't have a problem with that either because I've obviously been in the male restroom as a person who was pre-transition. I've been in the female restroom as somebody post-transition. And they're both scary in their own way. Do you know what I'm saying? But I can't imagine trying to navigate both of those spaces and just choosing on a whim. So it's almost like, I don't know, there's a lot of questions that go along with like, how do we introduce this sect of people to society and how do we manage the differences between our communities because we're not exactly the same?
Also, how do you introduce this sect of people into society when another sect in your own community is not accepted? It's like when it comes to the LGBT, we're not accepted at all. We're just not. Like you can see in the administration that's currently in office. We can see it even when Obama was in office. It's just the country that we live in. It's the world that we live in. We live in a very Christian world, so that is the plight that we have been dealt. I just think that when it comes to the oh well, my struggle's worse. No, my struggle's worse. No, my struggle. We're all struggling. We're all dying out here. Don't down me or belittle my struggle, belittle what I'm going through to uplift yourself or to uplift someone else. That's where I have an issue with it. I think if people just sat down together and they were just, we all have these struggles together and we're all a part of this community. Let's band together. But guess what? Y'all have been going through this for how long? And y'all are still dying in the street. So maybe because y'all are dying in the street and y'all are dying at the rates that you're dying, we should, band together, help y'all, let's fix this, and then we can fix everything. It's like until we can fix things inside our own community, the world is going to look at us like we're a joke. Because we can't even get ourselves, it's the same thing that people say about the Black community. Like, oh, y'all can't even get yourselves together, so why should we care? It's just like, we live in a white world. Like, that's just the world we live in. So if we live in a white, cis, heteronormative world, we do have to come together if we're going to beat the big monster. We can't continue to beat ourselves. So I think if non-binary people and trans people actually sat down and we actually had these conversations, at this point, I don't even know, to be honest with you. I mean, just the fact that India said that out of her mouth makes me look at India like, girl, shut up.
And that's kind of what I think we want to avoid. Like, we don't really want to fight with each other, right? Like, we don't really care.
No.
Like, we don't really care. Like, we want you to have your freedom. And I think that's kind of part of the problem is it's us, like, talking at each other over social media and, like, yelling at each other and dogging each other, and nobody's actually solving anything. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like, oh, our struggle's worse than yours. Your struggle's worse than ours. And it's like, they're different struggles. Do you know what I'm saying? You're trying to compare things that are not comparable. Don't try to compare them because they're not the same thing. Do you know what I'm saying? I can't understand the plight of a non-binary person or what they personally deal with because that's a different set of problems. Do you know what I'm saying? When you're asking for pronouns that are completely foreign to people, that's not something I deal with because I ask for female pronouns. I expect people to know female pronouns because they've dealt with them for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's not as crazy. You should understand, do you know what I'm saying, how I'm presenting. And I think that's something we get caught up a lot. I was talking to Cassidy before the show started, and she was saying that, Sephora had put a number of different pronouns, including non-binary pronouns, on the window or wherever it was displayed. And we were having a conversation about that. And I was wondering, Cassidy, would you like to talk a little bit about that conversation that we had and share your opinions on it?
Yeah, definitely. I was in my local, and we were sitting outside of Sephora, and there was a big, huge poster right in the window. It was the only thing in the window. It was huge. It was like a 10-foot poster. And I think I could be wrong specifically of what it said, but I know it said she, he, they, Zim, Zer, Z, and then it was like beauty has no pronoun or something like that. And I just thought to myself, you know, this is what, like I said already before, this is what people are thinking. You know, I live in Lexington, Kentucky now, and I can only imagine the girls, the white, cis, straight girls that were putting that poster up in that Sephora.
Mm.
I could only imagine what they were thinking putting that poster up, you know, and it like Mahogany was saying, you know, when we're not even accepted fully as binary trans women who should, to an extent, be blending in with society, should be so integrated in society, you know, to a certain extent, you know. I mean, I could talk about that later, you know, my ideas of just cis women versus trans women and just that experience. But, you know, if we can't even be accepted as binary trans women, how is society ready to accept people without gender? You know, I mean, that's just not, people can't even wrap their head around binary trans people, let alone non-binary at this moment, you know. And again, like, we haven't even solved bathroom issues, we haven't even solved insurance issues, we haven't even solved murder rates, you know, and violence, and we're now worrying about what pronouns we're using, and pronouns on driver's license, non-binary pronouns on driver's licenses and things like that.
Yeah, because it was only this year in California that trans women were allowed to change their information without having any other documentation, to be fair.
Exactly.
Yeah. I live in a state where I can't change my license says male, you know, and it's because I literally can't change it without going through such a process and having surgery that I'm not even interested in having, you know. And it's like, and that's not fixed yet, you know. And then we're trying to introduce non-binary to the world, and we're trying to make that the norm. I mean, it's almost like, how can those two exist at the same time? It's near impossible for those two to exist and those two to progress, you know. Yeah, that's basically how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think that when it comes down to it, I would just like to see a lot more coming together for trans people and non-binary people in a space that is even and not hostile. I think it always ends up being this thing where, like, you're being interviewed by BuzzFeed, and here's some trans people, and here's some non-binary people, and here's them yelling at each other. Do you know what I'm saying? And the thing is that when me and Cassidy and Maho talked about this before the show started, but a lot of these companies are trying to get over on us. They're trying to make money off of the fact that we're trans. They want our money, just like they want gay money, just like they want money from all of the LGBT community. And so they're starting to use us. And in that, they are damaging our community. They are damaging our relationships between the different letters in that acronym. Do you know what I'm saying? Because they don't care about the fallout of what happens between us. They don't care. So it becomes this thing of just this infighting. And, you know, before non-binary even existed, let's talk about the differences between trans girls. Okay. Like, for example, I'm non-op, which means that I don't intend on getting a lower surgery. And there was a period in time when other trans women would have told me that I was a man, and it happened very regularly in groups that we were all in. So, you know, and that's still a contested thing today. There are girls that will tell you today, if you are not planning on getting your surgery, then you are not trans, that you don't have dysphoria, that you don't deserve to even, like, herald that title. Do you know what I'm saying? So excuse us if it's hard for us to wrap our minds around it. I don't want it to seem like we're coming from a place where we don't accept non-binary people, but we're coming from a place where we're not even still completely accepted. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of something that we even struggle with. Like, I was also talking about how I have no plans to get breast implants immediately because of certain medical issues. And that's something that's also highly contested. If you're not getting surgery as a trans woman, a lot of times you're held to a standard that's almost impossible to really face unless you're somebody who makes quite a bit of money. Like, that's just the reality of things. Not all of us can be these Instagram girls. Not all of us want to be these Instagram girls because we have different lives. Do you know what I'm saying? Not every trans girl is the same. There's no point in getting a Brazilian butt lift, getting your lips pumped up, and getting like giant D boobs if you're going to go work at a retail store, or if you're going to work at a realty office, or if you're going to go and work a normal job, because that's just going to draw attention to you. Do you know what I'm saying? To be fair, people are going to treat you a certain way, unfortunately, in this world. So yeah, it's really hard. Kat, I want to ask you, because you consider yourself to be a little bit more fluid, do you have non-binary friends? Are you a part of that community, or is it just something you're on your own with? No, not necessarily.
I mean, I keep my friend circle pretty And it's funny too, because like I said, I am post-op. I did have SRS, so it's kind of interesting more so from me being like someone who went. I think it stemmed from me is I had an expectation before I transitioned of having this very cis-normative white woman lifestyle, and from an outside appearance, a lot of girls think I do have that kind of, because I do, I work a white-collar job, I have my own apartment, I'm not involved in like sex work, which there's no shame in that, but it's has a different connotation to it in our community. And I'm starting to not necessarily question all that, but just kind of realize it wasn't, I don't necessarily fit in that bubble, so to speak. Like Cassidy was saying, there's just differences between cis women and trans women. It's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, no.
I will always be a little bit kind of gay, like with no problem. It's because I came out at 14. I was a drag queen. I am a little bit more fabulous in just my inflection and my personality and how I'm animated than a cis woman is. Just how I interact with the world. How men treated us growing up too. Women are socialized from a very young age of how to handle men, how to talk to men, how to associate with men, whereas a lot of us were bullied by them, harassed by them, or maybe, had very different interactions than most women do. So that changes your interaction too as you get older. And I think too, being raised, all of us were socialized as male. You don't have that camaraderie that women have with each other. It's not the same camaraderie, especially if you're an outcast, like I'm assuming most of us were. You're not part of the boys club, so you're not included in that. So going back to what we're talking about, I think that leaves us not being so open-minded to those who are even different than us, because whether or not we agree with the non-binary movement, and I have my own opinions about it, we're just the same level of freaks to everyone else as them. We're still in the same bubble. So even though I may not understand, the Z's or whatever, I do realize gender as a whole is just trivial, basically. I like this presentation for me. It's cute. It works. But I don't consider myself, I like feminine pronouns, and I don't think I'll ever go like non-binary or
but just the fact that you were a little fluid, I thought it was interesting, especially considering that you've had SRS. That speaks a lot about you and your development and your journey. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I remember meeting you like very early on in your transition, very freshly off of, kind of some, I would say probably trauma that we all go through when we first start transitioning, where we're just kind of unsure of ourselves and we're really just kind of trying to fight back against the depression that we've been dealing with pre-transition, the anxiety, do you know what I'm saying? And just trying to find a way to fit into it. And, we're all growing out our hair, we're trying to learn makeup, we're doing all these things. And it was so nice to see you go through that journey and become so confident. It's weird to look at you now and see you be so completely different than you were then. Because I remember just the way you would talk about yourself, do you know what I'm saying? And I would be like, that's crazy, because I only see like quite a beautiful girl, because we only saw you after. I didn't know you before transition. None of us did, I don't think, So it was interesting to hear you say that you consider yourself to be somewhat fluid, but also great, because it means that we're not super different. There are probably even more people in between these spaces that we are even accounting for. Do you know what I'm saying? Because at this point I'm talking about non-binary and trans. There may be other things, and the way people view themselves is important, because it's about respect, right? So a lot of people want to talk about non-binary not existing, about trans not existing, about all these different things. And at the end of the day, I think the key point to wrap this part of the conversation up is that we just want respect, and we're ready to give it if you're ready to give it. Do you know what I'm saying? If you're a non-binary person and you want to be a bigger part of, trans people and the plight that we've been going through since we've existed, do you know what I'm saying? Talk to us, have conversations with us, ask us what bothers us, and we'll ask what bothers you, and we'll try our best to meet you halfway in the middle when it comes to things. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like us yelling at each other and trying to compare our struggles is never going to get anywhere at all. It's just going to continue to have us be toxic towards each other, and that's not going to do anything. Do you know what I'm saying? But I think what we ask as trans women is just don't speak for us. Do you know what I'm saying? And we won't speak for you. Do you know what I'm saying? If you're talking, talk for non-binary people, because that's what you understand. I don't see a lot of people who are non-binary appropriately talking about trans women, because they don't understand the ins and outs of the struggle that we go through. And that's completely fair. Unless you live this life, you don't know what it is. We're gonna go ahead and move forward. So the next conversation I want to talk about is getting bottom surgery because we just had that conversation. So let's go ahead and get into bottom surgery. I will go ahead and start. I personally have no plans to get bottom surgery. It's not something I ever plan to do. Any of these girls know that. I was always very open about it, and I received heavy criticism early on because I also am very open about the fact that I'm sexually more fluid and I do things that a lot of girls are not interested in doing. And there's always been so much judgment based on whether or not you get the surgery. At one point, you weren't allowed to get a license or a driver's license that had the female pronoun unless you had a doctor's note that literally said that you had had SRS. Like that used to be the standard. And that's crazy now, right? Like we think that's insane. It's still the standard in a lot of places, right? So like where Cassidy lives, you have to have the letter, like the letter. That's crazy that you literally have to have that surgery just to be treated with respect in regards to how you want to be addressed as a person. And so I would like to go through everybody and kind of have this little conversation about SRS and your journey and why you think it may or may not have been right for you. So Mahogany, you go ahead and start for us.
Well, I haven't had the surgery yet, but I do plan on getting it. So my views have changed on it. I remember at one point I was very non-op, and I didn't really want to do anything. At one point, I didn't even want to take hormones. So a lot has changed as I've grown up and I've gotten older, and I have wanted to do things for myself now. And I realized that, you know what, if when I get a vagina, I'll just feel a lot better about a lot of things, just internally. Not that I hate what I have now. Not that I hate my penis. It's not something I'm just like, I look at it, I'm just like, I'm disgusted. It's my body. So I had to learn to love my entire body, every single part of me, to then be like, okay, what do I want to change about myself? Because I think doing it in a lens of hatred or a lens of dislike or disgust, it really hurt me. And I wasn't making the proper decisions. But I definitely want a full surgical wound. That's a vagina. I want it. Like I want it very badly. Thank you, Obamacare, because you'll be paying for it. And I just, I want that. I want tits. Until I look in the mirror now, I'm happy. But until I look in the mirror and I'm ecstatic, then I'll be like, all right, I'm good. I'm good. I don't have to do anything else. But it's all a personal thing. Definitely.
It's very much, a personal thing for sure.
It's very personal, yeah.
And before we continue, I want to make sure that everybody knows if you're not a person of the LGBT community and you don't know, it's not correct or appropriate to ever ask somebody any of these questions that we're talking about right now. I just want to make a quick stipulation. We're talking because we're all trans and we know each other, and this is something we've chosen to share. I gave the girls the chance to omit any information that they would not like to submit to this conversation, and they've all agreed to be completely open. So before you ever approach a trans person, please make sure you're never asking what's between their legs, because it's none of your business. But Cassidy, you can go ahead and talk about your opinion of it.
Yeah, I would say that I have gotten what I consider to be my personal bottom surgery. I just about 4 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, got an orchiectomy, which for anyone watching who doesn't know what that means, it is the removal of the testicles. And I mean, it was more of a health reason why I got the surgery. I was, taking hormones and taking dosages and specific hormones that I didn't feel like I needed to be taking, but I had to take them in order to combat and fight my own body and what my body wanted to do, what my body wanted to produce. And I have wanted the surgery for a long time, probably 4 or 5 years I've wanted to get it. And I don't know why it took me so long to get it, because I've been wanting it for so long, and it's technically not a huge surgery. I went to a very local urologist when I finally had the finance to do it. At the time I didn't have insurance. I pulled out my little trusty cell phone and Googled every urologist in a 20-mile radius of me in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky. And I called like 20 offices, and I got a call back from one of them and had a doctor who was completely interested in doing it, was very respectful, very helpful. He'd never worked with a trans patient before ever, but he was totally open to doing it, and he did it, and it was amazing. I do not want full SRS. I never have. I think that was actually a very interesting thing when I first started transitioning. I had people around me that even questioned my own gender and being transgender, and I questioned it myself. It made me question it. If I don't want the surgery, am I just, what am I if I don't want a vagina? But I feel like I have gotten to a place now where it is what it is. It's just, and it's me, and I just don't associate having a vagina with being a woman. And so I don't need one to feel like I am a woman, because I already am, and it's never caused me any problems. It's never caused me dysphoria. And that may sound so crazy to some trans women who it causes so much dysphoria. They, want to commit suicide because of it. And I genuinely couldn't imagine, because it's never caused me any dysphoria. I have so many other points of myself internally and externally that cause dysphoria. That's just not one of them. And so for the longest time, I had dysphoria about having smaller boobs. I definitely wanted to get breasts. I would consider that part of, kind of SRS, and, like, I would consider other cosmetic surgeries as part of that, and as part of being, having surgery, or being non-op, or, whatever it is. But I don't want breasts anymore. Like Maeve was saying, just the health complications that I've been seeing so many women have with them, it's just scary. There's no guarantee, and I don't want to flip a coin on my health, on my life. And more than anything, I'm very content with what I have, actually, surprisingly. I never thought I would get to this point, especially early in my transition. Never would have thought I would get to a point where I was extremely happy with what I have. And just to speak to almost any surgery at all, I never thought I would get to a point where, if I, for whatever reason, God forbid, I could never have surgery again. I had some sort of, I don't know, allergy to anesthesia or something. I say this to myself: if I could never have any plastic surgery whatsoever, would I be happy with that? Would I be okay with that? And I can honestly say yes. Does that mean I don't want any more surgery? Of course not.
Yeah.
But I am at a place with myself where if I can get anything else done, I'd be okay with it. But yeah, so I would consider myself having bottom surgery, but also ironically consider myself non-op, because I don't plan on going all the way with getting a vagina.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so Kat, you are a resident post-op girl. So why don't you, because you've already had the surgery, obviously, just talk to us about how that went for you in a brief way, and also like maybe some of what people might not understand about it, or what you think may be misinterpreted, because your perspective is obviously very different from ours.
So I had it done 2 years ago, 2.5, I guess. I've been very happy with my results. It healed well. The aesthetics are good. Good depth. Still need lube. A lot of people seem to ask about that. They're like, do you menstruate? No, you don't. It's only just a shot. It's just a canal. That's basically, they invert your penis inside out, and they do some other stuff that make it look, like very much like a neonatal woman's vagina. But it has its own functionality. You do have to dilate, which is basically once a week. I have to basically just stick like a cylinder rod basically up my vagina and just hold it there for 20 minutes. It's not like I'll watch Netflix or something while I do it, and it's not that big of a deal. But that, because it wants to heal itself, because your body is treating it like a wound, you have to do that. I have, when I was pretty freshly post-op, I used to go on dates, stealth, so to speak, and I definitely had sex a few times without guys being aware of it, which was kind of a way for me, in a validation sense, is like, be like, oh, can I get away with this? It's like, is it passable enough? Can I do this?
I mean, because let's be real, every girl kind of, I think that probably gets SRS wants that 1 or 2 experiences right after to verify that everything was done right.
And I was. What I learned from it was, when I was dating it, I was like, yeah, I can get away with it, but oh my God, I was so much more censored of how I normally am. I was so much more demure because I was so like
Scared,
afraid of being
yeah.
caught on anything. And I mean, I just didn't make connections with them because I wasn't being myself. And it was more so freaking out, being like, oh my God, is he gonna like clock it? But it was very much like, can I get away with this? And just trying to be as sneaky as I could. And I know people are like, oh, well, it's like not deceiving because you're a woman. And I'm just like, yeah, but I wasn't born one. So, you know, I think, I don't know. I know that like the dishonesty in it, I don't think it's that bad or whatever because it was just trade, but still.
Yeah, I mean that's a bigger conversation, I think, and we can open it up here a little bit more so that everybody can have opinions, but it is dangerous, obviously. Let's say that as we talk about this and we're joking and blah blah blah, we've all done this and like whatever. We maybe not all had sex in a stealth way because we can't in the same way that you've had, but like there have been girls even, you know, who are non-op who've had sex with guys and they didn't know. Don't tell me. Don't even ask me how that happens because I don't know. I don't know how you have sex with somebody without them knowing. But it's happened to plenty of people, Mahogany. And so it becomes this thing of like, I just don't want my sisters to die. And one of the most extreme examples of anger you will get from a man is if he finds out during or like right after or before. I feel like it's probably the most dangerous things for you because guys kind of snap at the drop of a hat, and unless you have protection or can protect yourself, you're putting yourself at disadvantage. So I would highly recommend to the younger girls, please don't stealth and try to like trick guys. It's not gonna end up in a good place for you. And if you fall in love with one of these guys, I just want to warn you, it's going to ruin your life because he's never going to be what you want him to be. You're never going to be enough of a female for him. In most cases, it's very rare that you're going to end up in a good situation. If you completely lie to somebody from the very beginning, they're probably going to distrust you if they ever find out for the rest of the time that they know you. So it's just important to be honest with people and to not put yourself at risk if you don't have to. But yet again, it's your lives. I've done very questionable things. Obviously, Kat had her experiences, and I don't fault anybody for them either. It's more out of my concern for, because we deserve it, right? We deserve to go out and to not have to tell every single person what is going on in our lives 100%. Like, everybody deserves that. You go on first dates a lot and have sex with people and don't tell them what your favorite color is. You don't tell them how old you are completely. You don't tell them whether or not you have both your mom and your dad in your life. You don't tell people a lot of things about yourself when you go on a first date or you have a hookup. Do you know what I'm saying? People don't always deserve to know everything about you. And I think it becomes this thing, oh, we deserve to know. Actually, you don't. You don't. And in any other sense beyond sexual, like, you don't deserve to know anything about me. And if we're ever in public or anything, you don't get to come up to us and ask us. But I think it was a good takeaway. Let's see what we have next on this list. Okay, let's go from there, because I was talking about some violence to talking about trans violence and how it is affecting our community right now. Because let's face it, it's probably not the worst, because like Mahogany had said to me recently in a conversation, it's always been around. Do you know what I'm saying? Especially the hate of trans people who are POC. Because let's face it, people in our country, especially people who are white, they specifically want to target people who they see as the lowest common denominator in society. And at this specific point in time, and for a long time, people have considered Black people and people of color to be lower than them if they are white. And then also, if that person is trans, that's adding more, right? So what you end up with is somebody who considers themselves to be female, and we already know men consider females to be lesser. A person who is trans, which we know already people consider to be lesser. And then a person who is POC. You're adding 3 things to one person. That person is literally basically treated like garbage in society. I hope you understand that. I mean, people are dying, obviously, so that's easy to say. And it's crazy to me that this is even argued, that this is up for discussion, and I want to make this clear right now. I'm a trans woman, and I've lived my life for 30 years, and I've never been in like a physical situation or in danger because of being trans. And I suspect that the reason why that is because I'm outwardly white, and people are afraid of coming after me because they think that they might be held to a certain standard. And what that means is people think they can get away with killing trans women, specifically who are Black in most cases, because they don't think the cops are going to care. And let's be real, in a lot of cases, the cops don't do anything. A lot of these women are disenfranchised. They're just starting their surgeries and their transitions, and a lot of them aren't even accepted by their families. Some of them get misgendered when they die. Literally, that's like, I had to have a conversation with my dad this year, because my dad was never been 100% behind my transition, but he didn't necessarily always completely accept it. But I had to have this conversation, and this sucks as a trans woman that I have to have this conversation with my dad. But I told him, I said, if I ever die, like, you cannot bury me under a different name. If you do, like, I will fucking come back to haunt you. And I was crying, and I'm getting emotional now thinking about it, because it shouldn't be a conversation that we have to have with our loved ones about using our names and pronouns after we die. And I've seen several girls, unfortunately, pass who were my age, and I've seen them be misgendered at their own funerals. I've seen their families not even show pictures of them. Do you know what I'm saying? And that is like high key disgusting to me. Like, you've erased a person because you just don't accept them, and I think that's completely unacceptable. But Mahogany, being a trans woman of color, I think you probably have like the most to say about this topic. So why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about the violence and your opinions on our state and the country right now?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Because it keeps freezing. But yeah, it's a sensitive topic just because, I mean, I'm a part of the statistic. So since I'm part of the statistic, it's like, I don't know, I kind of have a mindset of like, oh, is it going to be me next type of thing. So I have to watch everything I do. That it's like, because people of color are at the bottom of the totem pole. And then if you add on all of these other additions to add them to the bottom of the totem pole, it's like, because we live in such a white world, what a lot of Black people do is they adopt that type of ideology, that type of thinking, because the Black trans women who are getting killed by Black men, because of the transphobia and the homophobia that is rampant in our community. It's very upsetting. I don't even really like talking about it, to be honest, because I mean, when you look at an article and you see a girl and you see yourself in her, in every way, and then she's gone, like, just like that. Just like with Malaysia, she was beaten in the street, and then she was killed a month later, and now no one talks about it. There was just a woman in Philadelphia who was killed. She was shot, and no one talks about it. And honestly, if it weren't for my really good friend Sharon Cooks, another trans woman in Philly, if it weren't for her and her talking about it on every platform because they were close friends, you would not have heard about it. So I kind of like, I know the world that we live in. And because I'm a person of color, I've always known the world that we live in. I was raised to know the world that we live in. I walk into a space, I'm Black. That's the first thing people see before they see gender or anything. So I already deal with that. Do have passing privilege for the most part, in my opinion. And I'm blessed that I don't deal with as many hardships as other trans women in the beginning of their transition or whatever, but I still have a huge target on my back. But we live in a world where that's just what happens, unfortunately. So honestly, in my lifetime, I don't believe in change. That's just the truth. Because it's been thousands of years and hundreds of years since things like slavery, and Black people are still disrespected the way that they are. So when it comes to something like gender and transitioning and everything like that, at this point, I'm just living my life to live my life. I never know what's going to happen. I never know if a guy who I really like is going to end up killing me because he's jealous, or he's going to kill me because of anything like that. I don't know what's going to go on. You know what I'm saying? So the state of the country and murders, everything, it's absolutely horrific. It's absolutely horrific.
And it's crazy to even have to be in a place like, because even I think, you know, like a hookup, for example, that's something a lot of people take for granted. It's a thing that happens in everybody's lives, right? And I'm gonna be honest about it. Like, I can't fall asleep next to a guy that I'm hooking up with because I'm afraid he might kill me in my sleep. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a reality. I can't. I just can't because you don't know these people. You don't know how they're going to react after they sleep with you. And the sad part is, a lot of them are trying it for the first time, so they don't even know how they feel. Do you know what I'm saying? So you end up with this trauma that they're dealing with. And I want to point out something. We are not your fucking psychiatrist. Do you know what I'm saying? So don't come to us for a hookup and then ask us to define who you are as a person because that's not our job. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not our job to tell you who you are, how you define. That's your business. It has nothing to do with us. And it makes us really fucking irritated to have to sit there and help you through like whatever the hell it is you're going through. It just makes us feel more like objects and less like women because we have to have that conversation with you over and over again. If you can't get right with yourself, don't have sex with trans women. Do you know what I'm saying? Have sex with cis women because you're just going to try to kill us anyways. Do you know what I'm saying?
But at the end of the day, we're a fetish. So I think what some people, and not even some people, I think what cis people need to understand is that we are not living, breathing sex dolls that you saw on Pornhub and now you want to experiment. And that goes for sex workers as well. They are human beings. They are human beings who are making money, and that is their job. And they should be respected as such. And that is their job. Especially if you're going there for a service and then you try to kill someone. Like, how dare you, you cheap bitch. But on top of that, it's just like come on, we're human beings. We're living and we're breathing. We're just like you.
Well, and the level of the extremity of the violence also usually shocks me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that one guy from, where was he from? Russia, like cut out that girl's heart and ate it. He ate her heart. Like, are you serious?
Exactly. He ate her. What really bothered me was they posted the pictures. They posted the pictures of her head and her spine. And I was just like, at the end of the day, you do not see this. Don't. You do not see that. And people were sharing it in groups and they were reacting, and you see these things and you're just like, this was a living, breathing human being who was living her truth. I think it's extremely hypocritical how living your truth is supposed to be the best thing you're supposed to do. And everyone says live freebie, live your truth. That's the only way that you're going to be one with God or with whoever your higher power is, by living in your truth. But then when the people who do live in their truth completely and fully are bashed, ridiculed, killed, of course you have people who hide. Of course you have women who are stealth. Of course you have all these things. So it's like, you can't be mad at the reactions that we have to all of your actions. And then you kill us on top of that. Like, how dare you? I have too much to live for. It's just like, but then also I don't want to give up dick. So it's just like, what the fuck?
Exactly. Like, that leaves us in a situation where we don't know how to date. We don't know how to do a lot of things. But let's continue the conversation. Maho, I wanted to ask you, have you ever faced any physical violence? Have you ever dealt with anything like that? Because of your transness, obviously, not just because you wanted to fight somebody, because I have a feeling maybe you've, you know.
Wait, repeat yourself because you froze.
I was saying, have you ever faced physical violence?
My computer is just like,
girl, get on your phone.
Non-violence?
Have you ever faced physical violence because you're trans?
Yes, I have. I've had to fight a guy off of me. I would say, how long ago was this? It was probably 5 years ago. I was living in an actor house. I was like, oh, this was like around the time I was like, oh, I'm gonna get an Oscar. And a guy came over after I had very stupidly not told him that I was trans, even though we were just on the phone with each other. We had not met each other yet. I had not told him I was trans. We started to meet each other. I still didn't tell him I was trans. We did things together, didn't tell him. When I finally told him, of course, he cursed me out, called me all type of horrible things. I was just thankful that he didn't hurt me. Then afterwards, he came back. He was like, oh, I want to hook up again. I'm sorry. Like, we should really get together. And that night proceeded to try to rape me. And I had to physically fight him. It's like, and I realized I put myself in that situation by not being completely honest, which is why I'm completely honest now. But that's not an excuse for trying to hurt someone or harm someone. And now that I'm older, I realize, yeah, you should have told him, but also he had no right to try to physically harm you in any way.
Yeah, of
Like,
course, or force himself on you like that. You
or
don't get,
force himself on
yeah,
me.
you don't get sex just because you want it. Like I think a lot of people think that's all we exist for, right? Like it's just to like literally just be sex objects, and
Just
that's
like, yeah, like we're sex objects. It's just like, okay, like great. Everyone is a sex object. You know what I'm saying? We
100%,
are here.
100%.
Everyone is. So, because we have sex, we're all sex objects. I dare a motherfucker to try now. I dare him to try now. I got a Glock. Like, what's good? Like, we
Well, and
sex
we'll go
objects.
over at the end of this conversation. We'll go over how to protect yourself. Cassidy, have you ever faced any physical violence because of your transition, or do you have any opinions on the current state when it comes to violence for us?
I personally have not dealt with any physical violence from being transgender. Thank the Lord. But it is definitely a real fear, regardless of whether I have dealt with it or not, or whether I or any other girl has passing privilege or not, or is stealth or not. We said it earlier, just being women, just being women, presenting as women. We already have that on our shoulder, like that we are open ourselves up for violence in that way. I can't speak on the experience or what it feels like to fear genuine murder, especially just for walking down the street, because that is an issue that trans women of color deal with more than anyone else. I never have fear that I'm going to be murdered per se. My fear of violence toward me comes more from, like we said, sexual encounters, or I fear actually going into the workforce and people, because I don't live a stealth life. I'm very open about being trans. I said it, I think in private, maybe before we got on live.
Do we have a frozen Cassidy? Is it just me?
No, she's froze, girl.
Girl, we got a frozen Cassidy. She's cute though, at least. Cassidy, you're frozen, babe. If you can hear us, walk towards the light, honey. Okay, guys.
Come
Well,
on, Caroline.
she'll be back. She'll be back. We're gonna channel her in a second. I'm just waiting to see if she comes back to the earth. Seems like.
Real quick, Maeve.
Can
I puff on here, or do I have to keep moving aside?
No, you can. I mean, it could be any kind of a vape, girl. Like I'm not monetizing this video in any way, so it doesn't really matter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. This doesn't matter. Okay, so since Cassidy's having a little bit of a hang up, she looks like she's got something to say, but she needs a minute. We're gonna go ahead and move on to Kat real quick. We're gonna go ahead and move on to Kat real quick. Kat, have you ever had any situations where you dealt with physical violence, have had friends or any of that, or what are your opinions on, being trans and physical violence in our community?
I mean, I've never been threatened with physical violence. I've been clocked like verbally or whatever, like that's a man or whatever. But I think being white probably helps a lot for the most part. And, as we mentioned before, being mostly passing for the most part probably plays a part into that. I fit enough into a box that even though if they know that I'm like a man or whatever, that I still get kind of that white woman privilege. And I've definitely noticed it to a certain extent that I can get away with a lot of shit. I can probably actually get away with more shit now than I could as a dude, to be, so to speak. And that's kind of weird and to a certain extent.
That's not weird.
Yeah, that's not weird.
I can get away with more shit as a white woman than as a gay boy.
White women, I will say this, white women are the prized possession of, like, in the head of men, I believe. It's been implanted in men that white women are the prized possession. If you have a white woman on your arm, you've made it. If you are a white woman, then you are just beautiful and you're, like, you have the world just, it's yours. You get what I'm saying? So.
It's wild. And it's true. It's totally true. Like,
Yeah, and that's like, it's a huge takeaway. Like if I can tell that people visibly are not coming after me because I am white in a situation, like that's where I start to analyze like how often does this happen? How much am I benefiting from this? Do you know what I'm saying? What am I gonna do to make it easier for my sisters? I grew up with people of color. Most of my friends are Black or Mexican, and I would be with them and see them getting followed around. I would see them getting harassed by people in stores where, like, generally they weren't trying to take anything. Do you know what I'm saying? My friends are not thieves. They weren't trying to steal, but it was like, you know, some Asian lady in like some salon somewhere, like following them around, or in a hair store. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's literally just them walking in and being Black that triggers that response in somebody. Like, I'm going to follow this person around while the person didn't pay any attention to me at all. Do you know what I'm saying? And I can feel that happens with men too. Like Kat was saying, I can feel that happens with men too, where it is this thing about white women are held to this like standard, like they're put on a pedestal. Even if you aren't that pretty of a white trans girl, do you know what I'm saying? I still feel like if you're a transgender or even a non-binary person who is white, I feel like you still are going to get less flack from society than a person who is POC, because people who are POC are taught to not talk, to not make noise, to not make a wave. Do you know what I'm saying? They need to be quiet. Like, and the truth is, they're the ones that deserve the voice the most out of anybody at this very moment, considering they're the ones dealing with the brunt of the violence and the hate.
Yeah.
But yeah,
White skin is currency, girl.
it is currency, and don't pretend like we don't use
currency.
it. Do you know what I'm saying? Don't pretend like we don't use it. Like I will be the first to say that I do, and it keeps me safe, and it's disgusting, but it's the truth. Like, and I will never deny that.
If you use it, the thing is, use anything to your advantage. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna knock anyone who recognizes the privilege that they have, but they use it to their advantage. But as long as you use that privilege also for people who are not privileged, like, I will say for Kat is cunt. Kat is fish. Like, you are, girl. You're so beautiful. You're beautiful. So it's just like with her, when she says these things, like, I understand. Like, I'm just like, girl, of course you're gonna be in a situation where if you are clocked, people aren't going to automatically be like, oh, let's bash, because
No, they're basically
that
like, basically the worst thing that says to me is basically someone coming to me saying you're beautiful. I know you're trans, but you're still beautiful. That's basically it. Or I'm like, just like it's something. It's usually like a backhanded compliment. It's the worst thing that's gonna happen.
Oh,
to me.
girl,
Or
yes.
I may get, that's an N-word from a homeless person, or that's a man, or something like that's.
I mean, society in general loves to give trans women or trans people backhanded compliments for days, right? Like, oh, you look really female. I couldn't even tell. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a constant thing. Like, or you do makeup better than me. I don't understand. Well, first of all, you cis
Can you
bitch.
teach me how you do your makeup?
Yeah, first of all, you cis bitch.
Oh my
nobody
God, the
is.
amount of time.
Girl, go ahead.
Teach me how you do your makeup.
Oh God, the amount of times I've gotten that.
Or my absolute favorite, the Olympics of a cis girl talking to a trans girl. How many times can I reference her as lady, miss, she in a single paragraph? It was like, okay, lady, let's get together for a girls' night, honey. You're gonna teach me how to do makeup.
And it's even worse now that Drag Race has become more prevalent and they have such a big following. Do you know what I'm saying? I think a lot of cis women don't know complete differences between trans women and drag queens. And because you're seeing trans people on Drag Race now, it's becoming even more confusing for people. And so they think it's okay to come up to us and do death drops and dips and snap and, hey girl, cis and all of this. And you're just like, first of all, you're not my sister. You may be cis, but you're not my sister. Like, don't say that to me. Also, like, nobody's born knowing how to do makeup. If you're a lazy bitch and you don't know how to do your eyeliner, it's because you're a lazy bitch and you don't know how to do your eyeliner. Do you know what I'm saying? We had to do this to survive. Don't come to us and talk to us about our makeup like it's just some frivolous thing that we do because we want to be pretty. This is war paint for us, bitch. This is armor. Okay, this keeps us safe. You want to talk about how long it takes us to get ready? If we don't fully get ready, we have a chance of getting clocked. We have a chance of somebody like clocking us, losing a job, losing a lover, losing your life. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just not worth it. And at the end of the day, it's a huge component, and it just really irritates me that cis girls try that. Like, really?
I think it's funny. I think it's funny when cis girls try that. Like, okay, girl, like, YouTube is everything. You can learn everything on YouTube. Stop expecting your little gay friend or your trans friend to be the one to teach you how to properly get men, and then you bash them if they get men. That's what I've never understood.
It's always the situation too. They're cool with you until your competition.
Until you become a threat. Until you become a threat. And it's just like,
threat
Girl.
until you are a threat.
Yep, that's very much what it is. That's very much what it is.
And guess what? At the end of the day, I will always be a threat. Like whatever you do, it doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Whatever anyone else tries to do, I know for me personally, if I walk into a room, I will be looked at and people will want to talk to me. If you don't have that aura to you, that sucks for you. The makeup isn't going to do anything. You hanging out with a bunch of gay men isn't going to help you out.
Mhm.
Like, girl, you need to look in the mirror and love yourself a little bit more. Confidence shows through. People love confidence. It can come out your pores. But
And
if
the
you walk
funniest
around
part,
like,
too,
I'm dowdy,
is a lot of these girls have subscribed to a look that we appropriated for years. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the
that we
trans look.
created.
You know, like they're wearing,
Girl.
there are cis girls wearing lace fronts now. Why are you wearing lace fronts? You have a full fucking head of hair on your head. Like I understand you want to have like highlighter yellow hair, but let's be real. Just a few years ago, you were making fun of us for wearing wigs, right? Like to be real, you were making fun of
It
us
was
for
ghetto.
not. Yeah, it was ghetto. It was gross. It was nasty.
It was ghetto. It was gross. But then, like, honestly, I will say this. The person or the people
Say it.
who really put through
Say
this,
it.
like, oh, you could wear wigs, you could do this, you could do that.
I
Those
already know who
fucking
it is.
Kardashians.
Yes.
Number one, the Kardashians did that. When Kylie came out and she was like, oh, I started wearing wigs. Now everyone wears wigs. I was like, girl, you don't even wear your face. Real face. How dare you think that you're a trendsetter? And she was a trendset. It's like, that's one thing I will say. Black trans women and trans women in general have created, I would say, 90% of the beauty trends that are prevalent in society today.
Mhm.
When it comes to the under eye highlight, when it comes to all of that. But the Kardashians, for the most part, have taken credit for everything. When it comes to butts, when it comes to surgery, when it comes to makeup, when it comes to hair, they have become trendsetters because they've stolen from Black women who these tips were shared with them from Black gay men, Black trans women, everything like that. So when I see these things, I'm just like, girl, you want to rock that wig? Sure, I can see your lace because you don't know how to properly apply it. But like do you, girl? You want to be highlighter yellow? Do you? It doesn't hurt my feelings at all. But when people try to say, oh, they created something or they are trend setting, it's just like, learn your history.
Yeah,
Learn
exactly.
your history.
And you know what's funny to me is that like white girls will be wearing wigs now, but I know they still go up to Black girls and ask stupid questions about their hair. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you don't know Kylie Jenner, or haven't seen it applied to her fucking head by Tokyo Styles. And let's be real for a moment. The only reason why Kylie Jenner looks half decent is because she was smart enough to hire a gay Black man who is like a wizard when it comes to fucking wigs. If she had not hired him, she might be in the garbage can. Because there are plenty of hairstylists who'll make you look real stupid and foolish in a wig. But this man is probably one of the most talented people in the hair industry right now. He does Cardi B's hair. He did Nicki's hair until she was an idiot and tried to throw him under the bus. And he deserves all the credit for people wearing wigs now. And he doesn't get it. Do you know what I'm saying? He should be getting that money because he is selling those wigs.
But also he doesn't get it because he is a Black gay man who presents as female.
Mm-hmm.
It's proud to be a Black gay man. He is actually someone who would fall into that genderqueer, androgynous category.
But he's sliding more and more is what I will say. He's sliding more and more. Now it's dresses. Now it's like these long boots. And I'm starting to feel like this is a moment that's getting closer to transition because like if you've been...
Oh, of course. Oh, girl. Cardi B's makeup artist is a whole training. I don't care what nobody says. Erica La Parla.
Oh, we've seen her. Have you seen her face? There's no way, girl. There's no way.
Have you seen her tits? Sit up here, her chest, and they're like that.
There's no way.
And I love it. You get what I'm saying? I love it. But what I love the most about it is that these are people who are living. They're living freely.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have a privilege because they have money. They live freely. They have the money to live freely. They have the money to do these things freely. But also they had that confidence from the beginning to do what they're doing now. I think a big thing with trans women, I think if more trans women were confident in who they are out the gate before surgeries, anything, life would be a lot easier. That's just the truth. You're confident, like you won't care about what other people have to say about you as much. You really won't.
Well, and it's sad that people like Tokyo and people like, Cardi B's makeup artists have to make money and get to a place of power before they feel like sharing who they really are. Do you know what I'm saying? Because there was a time
Exactly.
where Tokyo didn't dress the way that he does now because he wasn't being protected by Cardi B's team. He wasn't being protected by Nicki's team. Because the thing is, people think that people like him make a ton of money and they're just showered with love. No, I've seen his apartment, okay? He lives good. Do you know what I'm saying? But he's not getting the amount of money that Cardi or, Kendall or any of these people he's putting wigs are. He still walks the normal streets. He still has to deal with regular people when he's not with them. And he has to return to that life. It's still dangerous for him. Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's crazy. It's really, really crazy.
Wild.
Let me see what this next topic is. I think we've covered violence properly. Let's do something fun. Let's cover chasers because that's something people always have opinions about. And that's something that we talked heavily about. I will start. When it comes to chasers, I've had my issues with the label because I feel like in the trans community there is quite a bit. And I will say this but to make more sense of what I'm about to say. I'm a top in the bedroom, and I know that not everybody wants to know that. That may be too much information for some people. But I'm mostly a top, and there's a great reason why, and I'm not going to disclose that here. But I don't bottom, and so I deal with a lot of men who bottom. And in the trans community, there are lots of women who have no interest at all in topping, like 0%. I would say it's a very good percentile of trans women who have no interest in topping, and that makes perfect sense because it goes along with the narrative, right, of dysphoria when it comes to your genitals. But as we've discussed, not everybody has dysphoria with their genitals. I have dysphoria with everything else. My face, I have dysphoria with my makeup, my hair, everything. When I leave the house, anxiety ridden, like every other trans girl. But when it comes down to it, these men are shamed heavily by our community to the point where they're called pretty awful things. These men are called the F word. They're called every word you can possibly think of. They are called gay by every person. Even these trans women will actively come to your face if you say you're interested in them and mention their private parts in any way and just reduce you to ashes because they're tired of people fetishizing them, obviously, and they have that right. But sometimes they tear down men even who don't deserve it. And that's the honest truth. Just men who are curious, just men who don't have the same interests as them. And to be honest, men are idiots and they just can't catch a hint at any point in like history or time. And so a lot of them don't leave girls alone. And so they end up being very angry, and a lot of them end up getting very bitter because of the way the trans community treats them. But as far as chasers are concerned, I think that you can call somebody a chaser, but in reality, anybody who is overly sexual and is constantly chasing sex is a chaser. Men who constantly try to have sex with women are chasers, regardless of what you think. They are going after vagina and not dick, let's be like clear, obviously. But there are plenty of men who do that on a regular basis, like as a job, and have no interest in those women, and they are still chasers. There is no difference between them fetishizing vaginas, or not fetishizing, but, showing that attention to it, and the men who do it with women. Now, trans women want to propagate that none of us top. Do you know what I'm saying? That's very much the narrative, that none of us top, none of us have any variance in our sexuality because it's easier for people to understand, to be fair. And I don't completely fault trans women in taking that route to begin with. When we were explaining things to people about being trans, it's easier to go with one narrative and to try to explain that the best. We all know the age-old narrative of trapped in the wrong body, right? All of us are trapped in the wrong body. This is not my body. I'm trapped in it. Honey, this is my body. It's fabulous. I love my body. I love most of my body. There are some things I'd like to revise. Wouldn't we all? Do you know what I'm saying? We're not all made 100% the way we want to be made, and everybody deserves to do that. But when it comes to chasers, I feel like it's highly propagated to be something a little bit more than it actually is. But yet again, I deal with things from the perspective of somebody who tops, so they probably piss me off less, right? Like that makes perfect sense also. I'm not going to get in fights with these guys because these are the guys that I'm interested in. So we're going to move on to somebody who would have an actual opinion. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's Mahogany and the rest of the girls. So why don't you tell me about your opinions and experiences with chasers, and what do you think about them?
Chasers run rampant. I don't like using the word chasers anymore, personally. If a man is trans attracted, he's trans attracted. At this point, maybe it's age, maybe it's wisdom, but I can pretty much tell if a guy just wants to fuck or if a guy actually wants to have a conversation with me. Pretty much in the first, you can tell in the first 10 minutes of a conversation. You can pretty much tell. So if I realize that somebody's on that time where they just want to have sex with me and I'm going to be another notch on their bedpost, then I'm on to the next. Unless I just really want some. and then it is a mutual using situation. Like you use
Okay.
me, I use you.
That is very real.
It's not a big deal to me. In the beginning, I used to be like, oh, if a guy's been with many trans women, then I don't want anything to do with him because that
Mhm.
means that he's this and this and this. I don't care if you've been with every girl. I do not care at this point. That makes it easier for me. So now I don't have to hide certain things. I don't have to feel self conscious about certain things. I don't have to be like, oh, let me keep my panties on and slip my panties to the, like, I don't got to do all that. And even if you weren't on that type of time, you're going to see all of it anyway. You get what I'm saying? So at this point, if a man is attracted to trans women, I applaud you. If you're open about it, I applaud you. If you're just using us as a fetish, that's on you. But you ain't getting none from me. There are girls out there who will gladly do that for you. And most of the time, you're going to have to come out of your pocket.
Okay.
And if you don't like that, if you don't appreciate that, then maybe you should come correct.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, if you're courting any woman, you have to come out of your pocket. So I don't understand why anybody is upset. Like, you don't want to buy me dinner. You don't want to take me out. I'm not going to meet your mom.
Mhm.
I'm not going to do all these things that you would do with a cisgender woman because at the end of the day, you still see me as something that's not cisgender. I may be a woman to you, but you're not going to do all those things you would do with a woman that you're actually pursuing to be in a relationship with.
Uh-huh.
So since you're not doing all of that, run me my check. I want the date money. I want the gas money from the date. I want
The
the
gas
second
money.
date money. I want all of it. And I want you to give it to me. And then once you give it to me, you can go about your way. I busted a nut, you busted a nut, and we both happy. And my pockets are full. So it's just at the end of the day, like, I don't see the big deal. Like,
Mhm.
girl, they talk about chasers, and it's just like, sweetie, you don't have to fuck him. You don't have to fuck him at
No.
all. Why you so mad?
Yeah.
The exposing shit, all that. Like, girl, you wasting time and you put yourself in danger. So it's just like, let these niggas live. They all bums anyway.
That's
Like,
true.
let them live.
Okay, Cassidy, what's your opinion on chasers? Tell us your experiences, girl. Have you dealt with the chasers? What is the deal?
I mean, yeah, I definitely have. I mean, I agree with you guys too, though. At this point, I mean, every guy can be a chaser. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be to trans women. It doesn't have to be to cis women. You know, fat, skinny. I mean, chasers are chasers. You know, and if you're trans attracted, like, that doesn't mean you're a chaser. You know, if you're trans attracted and you just want to get your fucking ass pounded every night by every trans woman you can find, and you have no interest in knowing them as people, then yeah, you're probably a chaser then. And that's the thing. I mean, I prefer trans attracted guys anyway. I'm not your case study, you know. I'm not your questionnaire, you know, or your to answer your questions. You know, I'm me, you know, and I don't mind a guy who has been with trans girls before. I don't mind a guy who's interested in trans girls. I don't mind a guy who, honestly, let's be honest, slightly fetishizes trans girls. Whatever, it makes me feel good. Who cares? But I want respect. That's all it is. It's all that matters. You know, if you respect me, that's all I care about. You know, you can fetishize me all you want. You can think that I am some, oh, greater than thou, you know, better than this girl, better than whatever, or you can think I'm, you know, you can think I'm a man. But if you respect me, which if you respect me, you wouldn't think I'm a man.
Let's be real,
then-
yeah.
Yeah, let's be real. Then that's all I care about. You know what I mean? That's literally all I care about. You know, I've been with guys that are 100% only cared that I had a dick and that I was interested in having any kind of sexual contact with them. That's all they cared about. You know, and then I've been with guys that literally have never been with a trans girl in their life, have view trans women as literally no different than a cis woman, you know, and if anything, me being trans is a problem because it's like, you know, like I've been with men who literally thought that I was going to be getting surgery and were disappointed when I said I wasn't, you know, because they just looked at me as any other girl up for grabs, you know, in the dating pool, you know, and they were actually shocked that I was a trans woman who did not want to get surgery. That was very weird to them because they didn't really like what I had down there. They just liked that I was a girl, you know, and they liked me for who I was. And then I've been with plenty of guys in the middle, you know, all across the spectrum. And again, I don't really, as long as I am respected, that's all I care about. You can consider yourself straight, gay, bi, whatever, no one knows, I can't even speak to these men and what's going through their head and what's going through their mind. As long as they respect me, I will respect them and whatever, they think, whatever they want to do. But yeah, I have no problem with trans attracted guys. I prefer it, like I said. I mean, yeah, especially again being non-up, kind of like Maeve. Those are the guys I'd prefer.
That's
anyway.
the options. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if we want to be happy, that's what we have to go for. Like, it wouldn't make sense
Mhm.
for us to go for somebody who wants you to get a surgery, because that's going to be a conversation we're going to have eventually, and you're not going to be happy. Do you know what I'm saying? If a guy's
Mhm.
not happy in sexual situations where I obviously have a penis, it's like, well, this is not going to work. Do you know what I'm saying? But a really unique, perspective that we have, obviously, is Kat here. Kat, you have had surgery, so you've experienced both chasers before and after. And I can't say that chasers probably recognize you as trans, because to me, you pass perfectly. So I don't know if you actually even get perceived as trans by people anymore. But have you dealt with any tracers after you've had your surgery, or even what was it like before?
I mean, I don't really get chasers anymore. Once they learn, once they learn I'm post-op, like if they're finding me, because I'm pretty open about my trans status. I don't hide it or anything. But once they learn I have a vagina, they don't really have interest in me anymore, which is kind of funny to a certain extent. But that's one thing I will say about being post-op is I definitely feel less fetishized now. Definitely, but my dating pool is much smaller, especially, and I notice it too, especially like when I'm on dating profiles and stuff like that, like the number of men of when I list trans on my profile versus, how much they unmatch when I have it listed versus when I don't have it listed. So I would say almost dating post-op is more difficult to a certain extent, because you don't get the subset of men that fetishize you, and cis men, generally speaking, see you as different or still kind of a curiosity to a certain extent. So that's kind of the thing. They're just like, whoa, what's your vagina like? It's just like they're kind of curious into it. So, but that's it. It's just a curiosity. It's not like this is something I want. It's just like, oh, give it a shot,
Yeah, and I mean, that was something that was highly discussed in the group, because let's face it, like, all of us baby trans women, I'm sorry, I use the word, I'm not supposed to. But that's even something I want to bring up. Actually. Just a quick sidebar. This is a word that trans women still use to this day, and in private. We obviously are not okay with you using it to our faces. And most trans women don't want to be called this. But I grew up in the drag community. That's how I was raised as a trans woman. And in the drag community, that's a normal word to be used. And it's not necessarily, context is important, right? It's important that you understand that we use that word in a kind of mean, loving way with each other. And it's not something that you should repeat. It's not ever something that you should use, even if you are a trans person, to another trans person, because you'll probably get attitude back. The only reason why I use that word just now is because I'm with a bunch of girls that I love and I know, and they're basically sisters to me. But back to what I was saying. So what it comes down to is that we used to have these conversations all the time in our group. It was called the T-Girl Facebook Network. And we used to always sit here and we would idolize these girls who had the chance to have surgery, because there was a very small pool of girls who had surgery in this group. And so there were a couple of girls who we kind of all went to for our questions, asked them about, the surgery. They gave us all the information. We went as far as, like, they would literally post pictures. And I'm sure that that's something that they probably wouldn't want me to share. But they would post literal pictures of their situation afterwards, which was for educational purposes, of course. But it was so crazy to watch some of these girls go from being highly sought after to not being sought after at all, and even being depressed and having to deal with not having men who are interested in them. Because you have to think, at the end of the day, when you're post-op, you've gone from this place of being this treasured, unique creature that people want to be involved with, to being somebody who they see as lesser than a cis woman because you can't have babies now. And then suddenly it matters that you were born a certain way. Do you know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, now that I've chopped it off, it matters. Do you know what I'm saying? You want to treat me like shit.
Exactly.
And and I
and that's dead on. And I feel like I'm a little bit of an outlier for this too, because for me, I'm kind of more asexual, really, in my sexuality. So for me, it's like kind of like, it's just like kind of like whatever. But for a lot of girls, like you said, I know it can be devastating.
Yeah, I mean, I know a girl specifically, and I'm gonna mention her by name, and not her last name, obviously, but her name's Lauren, and she was a model, and she was very beautiful, one of like the more beautiful girls in our group, and you know, she got a lot of attention for getting post-op very early on because a lot of people did. And she shared stories of how she was neglected after she got her surgery, because that's a reality for a lot of girls. You will go get your surgery, and because you're so excited, right? Like, you got your surgery, you paid the money, you've done the process, you've done the healing, and like Kat said earlier, you kind of want to take it out on the town, you know, you want to have like your moment. But that's a very hard reality to return to, because you are in this whole new situation where you're no longer going back to those same guys that were chasing you. Do you know what I'm saying? On
It's very
OkCupid.
like Electra and Pose.
Very that. And I love that they included that in Pose. If you guys have not seen Pose yet, it's very important that you watch it. If you're somebody who wants to learn more about the trans community, this is as close as I've come to our roots as a community and the real women who deserve credit for our language, for our style, for our everything. Do you know what I'm saying? A lot of it came from the ball scene, ridiculously, that it's not credited to now. But yeah, that episode with Electra, basically what happens is a guy ends up leaving her because she gets SRS. And that's something that happens to a lot of people. Like, if it's something you want but your significant other doesn't, a lot of girls are going to go for what they want to go for. But what she saw was she immediately lost that sugar daddy. He dumped her and got a girl 5 seconds later. And, you know, it was no thing to him. And they will easily do that to you because he was attracted to a certain part of you. Do you know what I'm saying? So this is where girls can get off calling guys chasers. That's a pretty hard thing to deal with. Do you know what I'm saying? She was left with nothing. And that's happened to real girls in real life. That's based on real experiences. So I don't want people to think just because you've gotten SRS that that's suddenly the end of all your problems. We don't get a card that says that we're female. People don't stop harassing us. People don't suddenly open up their doors to us if they're straight. Straight men are not suddenly interested in having sex with us. If anything, it's the opposite. Do you know what I'm saying? You have to be very sure when you go to get sexual reassignment surgery. It's not something that we think about very lightly. You know, we consider this every day of our lives up until the point that we do it or don't. So it's just something I wanted to mention because I think it's not talked about enough, honestly. We lost Kat again. She's back. I think it's boxes right now. Okay, so that was Chasers. Anything left to say on Chasers? Do we have any warnings, any advice? Is there anything you'd like to say to the greater Chaser community about us?
Hey, the girl. Pay them. Stop being cheap. $40 don't do nothing. Stop being cheap.
I always say you got. Go ahead, Cassie.
Oh, sorry. Just to build upon that, I mean, yeah, either pay us or fucking respect us. That's it. You know, it's like if you're gonna, like, if you want, I mean, this is literally two chasers. If you are watching this and you are a chaser, you know, and you are trying and you're trying and whatever, you know, how, like, if you actually want a chance, you know, because again, like there's so many levels of it, you know. It's not like every guy that's into trans girls is a chaser, and it's not like every chaser even is, you know, some piece of shit, you know. They're not. But if you act like a piece of shit, then you are going to be seen as a piece of shit, you know. And so learn about us, you know, respect us, ask us, you know, what it is we want from you, you know, because, you know, maybe certain girls will get mad at that, but you know, certain girls want different things, you know. So ask us, you know, be open with us, you know, be open to, if you actually want a real experience, like a real relationship, let's say, with a trans woman, how would you do that to any other woman? You know, how would you get a relationship with any other woman? Do that with us. That's all you have to do. You know, it's like, I don't know. I've known guys personally who literally, I've seen the way that they flirt with and treat cis women, and then they go to me and they want a relationship, or they want, you know, even just a sexual encounter, but more so a relationship. But then they want to treat me completely different than they treat cis girls. And it's like, what? Like, do you not have common sense? You know, it's like, what? It's so confusing.
Yes, Kelly Pierce is in the chat. I just want to say hi to Kelly. Hey, girl. She is she was a guest on the Dollhouse during our sex week. I don't know if she's still in the room, but I just want to give a huge shout out to her. I love Kelly. She's somebody that helped us finish our sex week, and Kelly had a great video that a lot of people really enjoyed. It got probably like the highest views of anything on our channel. So I just want to make sure that we say hi to Kelly. The other thing I wanted to hit before we finished is I wanted to talk about the fact that a lot of people don't seem to understand what the sexuality of the men that date us are, and a lot of people have questions about that, not just the men themselves. I've had lots of people come up to me and misinterpret who it is that's attracted to us, and I want to make it very clear that gay men do not date trans women. Like, I feel like I have to say this all the time, and it's really frustrating to constantly have this conversation. But gay men are not interested in trans women. If they are, they're not gay. I'm sorry. They're somewhere closer to in between, bisexual, pan, whatever it is. Because the truth is that gay men aren't just attracted to dicks at the end of the day. They are attracted to masculinity. They're attracted to the male body. They're attracted to people who live their lives as men. And there's no gay man I have ever found who thought that trans women were great and sexy, and I would almost be offended as a trans woman if a gay man found me attractive. Do you know what I'm saying? I would be like, okay, girl, I need to go back home, put on some more concealer, maybe a little bit more lipstick and a lot more hair, and then come back out because I'm obviously looking a little manly tonight.
Yeah, I feel like, to build on what you just said, I feel like, what are they? What would you consider them? I don't know, but gay is not the word.
Yeah,
That's
gay is
what they're
not. No,
You
it's
know,
not.
I can't say the men that are attracted to us, I can't say what they are. Because there genuinely are bisexual men that are attracted to us. There are genuinely straight men that have never even thought about a girl with a penis before that are still attracted to us because we're women. You know, there's so much stuff in between. You know, so I can't say what the men that are attracted to us, what they are. I don't think they could. I don't think anyone really could. But I can say with certainty they are not gay. That's for sure.
Okay, I think we covered that topic well. We got all of that taken care of. Let's see, let's move on to pumping. I feel like that'll be a short one, but we can submit our information here. We were just talking about this. If you're somebody who's joined the chat and you're not of the trans community, pumping is something that happens when you go to a place and you have a woman put a liquid or material inside your body, usually in your hips or butt, and that's to even out boy dents, is what we call them, in your butt or in your hips, to try and make things better for you. Oh my God, we lost her again. You know, it's extremely dangerous. Usually the actual materials that they're using are not meant for medical purposes, and it can kill you. But a lot of girls really don't care. Regardless of that happening, they still normally go and get it done. I'm still being approached by younger girls today about this topic, because it is believed that if you are a woman and you don't have the proper amount of curves, regardless of the fact that obviously lots of women are not the same size, then you are expected to go and get this done as a trans woman. It's not as much anymore as it used to be. It's more accepted now for you to kind of have what body type you want. But there was a time where if you were not, you know, skulking into a hotel room somewhere and getting pumped in the butt, then you were considered to be kind of a man. Do you know what I'm saying? You were a brick. You were somebody that looked like a box. And, you know, in reality, like, even I deal with this on a daily basis. You know, this was talked about earlier, but I've worn hip pads. It's something I still wear occasionally because, yet again, it's just like the makeup. It's something that helps me pass better in public, then I'm interested in it. If it makes my clothes look better, then I'm interested in it. But at the end of the day, it's not, you know, out of insecurity or like, oh, I don't like my body. I honestly don't care. I'll wear whatever I want. But some clothes look better when you have hips. I'm sorry. That's just when clothes are made to fit you when you have a bigger butt and hips. If you don't, they will fit wrong and look weird on you. So that's something that I have to deal with. But yeah, so let's go ahead and move on to oh, and if you guys want any like visuals, there was a movie called Gun Hill Road, and it gives a very, very accurate representation of what pumping looks like, if you would ever like to see it. Because part of the problem I feel like with the stigma is people don't understand how shady it is. You go into a hotel room with a woman that you've never met, she preps you and injects the stuff in your butt, gives you almost no information about it. It's usually sitting in a large liquid container that's clear. And then when they're done shooting you up, they put super glue on the wounds, super glue. and then they put band-aids over that until you heal, and then the super glue eventually washes off. That is how I've seen the process done with most people. I won't say that it's with every person, but that is just
They
a
have
small
that
bit of
episode
context.
Pose too.
Yes, they do. You're
That
right.
episode of Pose.
You're right, they
Yeah.
do. Okay, so Mahogany, why don't you start? What are your opinions on this topic?
I will never get pumped. It was never something I wanted to do. It's never something I will do. I'm not. That's like a definite never. I will say though, when I used to ask certain girls for advice about body and BBLs, Brazilian butt lifts, which is something that I am interested in, many girls told me, "Oh, a BBL is gonna do nothing. Just get SIL. Just get the shot, pump. Like that's what you're supposed to do." Which I think is absolutely ridiculous because you know the risks that are involved with silicone. This is free floating material just in your body. It can get in your bloodstream. Girls die all the time from it. Their bodies are literally rotting. I mean, T.S. Madison even makes jokes about the fact that her body is messed up because of silicone. She'd be like, if I take these clothes off, this body is rotted, baby. Like, she says it all the time. So when you see these girls who have all these issues, that's not something I would advise anyone to do.
It's cute till you're 50 is what Kelly said.
You said what?
Kelly said it's cute until you're 50, which is very true. If you make it that long.
Yeah. If you make it that long and then it starts to droop and then it gets hard. For instance, you want to talk about SIL? Let's talk about SIL. SIL is prevalent even in the cis world.
It is.
Because you have girls like Nicki Minaj. If you look at Nicki Minaj, she is pumped with silicone, okay?
Cardi B?
She's pumped with silicone. Cardi B has admitted it. And that's one thing I will say. Cardi B admitted on the radio that she got silicone shots, and she said, I could die at any time because I don't know what the fuck is in me.
And respect to her for saying that. I just want to say real quick, I'm not trying to interrupt, but respect to her for saying that because as a rich person, she does not have to divulge that information. And she even said it could kill her, which is a very important tagline to add at the back of that because she could have easily said, and it works great for me, like, go get it today. Do you know what I'm saying? But she did it when she was stripping and she did it under pressure from other strippers. So I just wanted to say that one thing, but go ahead, girl.
Yep. But just like you do it, like a lot of trans women do it under pressure from society and from other trans women. When you see other trans women, 1 week they are flat as a board, and the next week they have body. It's like that. You're like, how did you do that? And of course, they're going to share with you if they want to. But I mean, if you go to New York, I know 4 girls right now. If I wanted to get injections, that I can hit up on Facebook, and they're my friends. I know 4, and one of them is an actual nurse. And if y'all know who I'm talking about, some people will know who I'm talking about, okay? She will give you silicone. And she, for some reason, she's like, oh, well, I only give you enough until I think that you're good. No, baby, because even if you are giving me medical grade silicone, I can still die. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think it is something that you should completely avoid, but it's a last resort thing. And some girls would rather live for 10 years and be comfortable with their body and then decompose and pass away and have 10 great years of living comfortably than living the 40, 50 years of regular life with a straight board body and constantly feeling self-conscious. It's all up to you. I personally, I will never get pumped. You ain't sticking no needle in me. Super glue in a wound? Oh my God, that's crazy.
And you know that was a constant conversation in the T-Girl Facebook network, which is again a group that we all were in, and this is a group that Janet Mock, Laverne Cox, lots of people were in this group. We constantly argued about this. This was something that was highly debated because you had the girls who everybody considered to be the most beautiful girls in the group who are obviously pumped and surged down boots. And then you have the new girls coming in who are trying to figure out how to get there. Do you know what I'm saying? And you have them messaging them in private. You have them asking questions. And I feel like some people who get pumped honestly get off on getting other people pumped. Like it's a way for them to validate that it was something that they did and it wasn't that bad and somebody else can do it too. Do you know what I'm saying? But you're literally putting somebody else's life at risk. It's one thing if you want to do it to yourself knowing the risks, but sending young girls out to get pumped so that they can feel female enough to be in the trans community is like just insane to me. I just can't. It's really shocking that it's such a prevalent thing in our community. Cassidy, have you ever dealt with pumping? Have you ever been pressured? Do you know anybody?
I will say that coming from a girl who has had a BBL, pumping, oh yeah, the pressure's there for
Oh,
sure,
and
for
just
sure. I
just a quick
remember,
interjection. Could you also talk about, BBL and in comparison to pumping when you get
oh,
done?
yeah, 100%. I don't blame any girl for ever wanting to be pumped. I don't even blame the girls who are pumped because it's so, like you said, there used to be a standard. You had to be, it just was expected of you from others, and maybe that standard has gone away, but the standard that we put on ourselves to get it done for ourselves has never gone away.
Mhm.
You'd be hard pressed to find a single trans girl who at the very least has not considered it. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I've considered it. I was 17 years old and, I was very fortunate enough to be coming into inheritance when I turned 18 from my grandfather. And the number one thing that I was dysphoric about was my silhouette. And so I ended up getting a BBL because fortunately I was able to. But before that, I had met a girl a few months before I turned 18 and was going to get my surgery, who had God knows what in her. She claimed it was a substance called PPMA, I think, which she said it was not silicone. It was this new thing they're doing everywhere, whatever, and she knew a girl in the back of a nail salon who I could go and get it done for
Nope.
$500 a session. And let me tell you, the price comparison of silicone work to BBL is your jaws would drop. I'm going to put it out there, to get the amount of fat that I had put back into my body. I had 5 liters of fat taken out and I had almost 3 liters of it put back in. If I would have gotten 3 liters of silicone put in, that would have ran me maybe a couple thousand. This ran me for BBL 12 grand. It is very expensive. I mean, I'm sure nowadays, especially, I got this done 5 years ago. I'm sure nowadays you could find doctors that are very reputable that would
Mhm.
charge less because it's so much more common now. But at the time, I went to who I felt was one of the most experienced people in Los Angeles to do BBLs, and I think he did an absolutely wonderful job. But on the flip side though, you lose a lot of what you get. So I can understand where even Mahogany, you said you've heard girls say like, oh, it's not worth it, just get sil, because to an extent, I mean, it's so much more expensive and it is not completely permanent the way silicone is. I right now, if I was completely naked, I mean, it doesn't look perfect, I'll tell you that, the same way that silicone doesn't. The benefit is that I could very easily and safely get this touched up, get this
Mhm.
fixed, get this even removed if I wanted to, very safely. I would not have to worry about any kind of complication, beside just complication of going under for surgery. So I think that's like one of the biggest benefits. And, I'm so grateful that I did not go the silicone route because I really was considering it. Again, I knew a girl who repped this girl that did her, and she looked pretty good. I got to be honest, she looked good. And I thought about it, I thought, I could save thousands. I could save like $10,000 if I went to this woman,
Mhm.
and I could probably have more body than my surgeon that did me could have ever given me. And I still just thank God that I didn't, because my biggest thing was I was too scared. I was too scared. And the problem is, like, that comes from genuinely being a chicken shit. But these young girls that are coming up, they're not chicken shits. They are not scared. They want body, and that's all they care about. And they will risk anything. I'll give it to her. Eden, the doll, made a YouTube video about her getting silicone, and she literally titled the video, I got illegal silicone injections. And she talked about it, and she definitely didn't glamorize it in her video. She didn't really put it down very much either. She claimed, or she said you could die or you could, things could go wrong, but she didn't really put it down either. She said, she did it and, she happy with it and whatever. But that's the hardest part, is to see these young girls that want bodies so bad, and that was my number one thing I was dysphoric about. So I fully get it, fully understand. Oh my, I had girls criticize me. Why didn't you get your face done?
Yeah.
Why didn't you get your boobs done first? You know, because I'm not as dysphoric about that. I wanted hips, I wanted butt, you know, I wanted curves. But silicone is not the way to do it. It just isn't. I mean, I don't care how many girls have got it done and they haven't had problems. I don't care how many girls that have gone their whole life and they've never had a problem. There is not one guarantee at all that that will be you. You know, you could be that girl that dies on the table. You don't know. The girl who does it, they could be a licensed triple board certified plastic surgeon who is doing it for you, you know, off the books. And they can still kill you right then and there, you know, or it can kill you down the line, you know, or it can, more than anything. I mean, I see so many girls now who are dealing with, pretty much, for lack of a better term, slowly dying from it, you know, and that sounds terrible, you know, just going through the removal process and going through being sick and being ill and having all of these horrible things. I mean, I'm sorry, I'd rather die on the table. I'd rather just die on the table than go years and years and years of suffering through so many other secondary illnesses that come from the silicone.
It's very similar to implants almost in a way, obviously much unsafer, but your body's just reacting to foreign objects inside of it. Do you know what I'm saying? And what a lot of people don't understand is that when you get silicone done, it's not just like they pump this liquid into your body and it's just like jelly inside your body and it's just there and they can just like pull it back out if they want to. What happens when they pump it into you is it immediately forms scar tissue around it and it becomes hard. So it's not like it stays this like jelly sequence. It's not. When you touch a girl that has silicone, when you touch her legs, they're hard. And I cannot express this enough. It is just a visual thing. I've known girls, I've touched their legs, and they literally feel like fake legs because of how much silicone they've had pumped into their body. And to them, they don't really care. And to guys, the guys don't probably care that much as long as the shape's right, let's be real. But I don't understand why anybody would put their life at risk and then deal with all these negative effects afterwards just to live for 10 years in a body that you think is good enough. I would rather wear hip pads. People can make fun of me, do you know what I'm saying? But I would rather wear hip pads when I go out and not have a guy care. Because let me be honest with you. I brought plenty of guys home when I was wearing hip pads and not one of them has ever made a fucking stink about it. Not one. Because they don't really care. When you already got a guy home, like he's on a different level, okay? He's not worried about these fine details. As long as you have what he's mainly after, he's really not going to give a shit. But they're going after different guys, obviously. These are a lot of the same girls, going back to our previous topic, who want SRS and who want to be perceived as the picture of femininity. And let's be real. In our world, the picture of femininity usually is big hips. Now, boobs also play their part, and every trans girl tries to get boobs for the most part. But hips are another thing. Like, it's a childbearing thing. You're supposed to have hips if you're a woman or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. And also I wanted to say there was some discussion about YouTubers in our chat. Cassidy knows some girls, and I know of some girls who specifically on YouTube who are really popular right now and who are trans, and they did have silicone done. And let's not pretend like there aren't trans girls coming up who are watching them, who are not watching these custom outfits be made for their bodies. These girls show off their bodies every chance they get. Nikita shows off her body all the time. Who was the other girl that you mentioned? I don't know her name. Eden, there you go. Because I knew her by a different name, but Eden, Gigi. I mean, Gigi didn't go that hard on silicone, it doesn't look like, but
it don't look like she went hard on anything.
But still, it's an unrealistic expectation for a lot of these girls who are growing up. You know, when the Dollhouse was originally around, girls came in and saw us, and this is real trans women. I'm not saying those women are not real, but what I'm saying is if you're looking for a depiction of somebody you might see on the street who is trans, it's much more likely that you're going to see an us over a Kelly Pierce or a Kim Herrera or, you know, whoever it is that you deem to be so attractive. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, these girls are the picture of beauty in our community. A lot of people are jealous of them, but there's something that comes with all of that. Do you know what I'm saying? There is something that comes with all of that.
Yeah, I will say, when it comes to silicone, there's also that thing of you see the older girls, like I brought up T.S. Madison, but there's also another woman, I'm not going to say her name, but she's well known in the community as a musician and everything. And recently, she has had to have silicone removed. She has had infections in her breast. She has gone through very troubling things trying to emulate an image of what a perfect woman is. Now, this woman also was brought up in the ballroom scene, which is a very, like in the ballroom scene, you're getting still because you want to snatch a trophy, because you want your tens, and also because if you're in the ballroom, the more real you are outside, the more real you are inside. That's just the truth. So to see this woman go through what she's going through, it's disheartening, even though this woman and I have had our back and forths. I still very much care about this woman. And to see her going through the things that she's going through because she wanted to attain an image of perfection in her eyes. This is a woman, she has silicone in her kneecaps. I have never heard of somebody getting silicone in their kneecaps. She got silicone in her knees, okay?
But let's be real, why would you do that, right? Because like Cassidy mentioned, people don't understand that when you get silicone, it's not perfect. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not like when you see pads on drag queens. You will see lines of demarcation where the silicone ends and where it starts, because there's no way for some random woman in a hotel room to specifically put silicone in places where it's going to look the best for you, because that person's not trained. They don't know what they're doing. And also, it's a free-flowing liquid. It's not going to go into your body and be a perfect shape for your hip. It's just not. That's not the way it works. And I know the woman that you're talking about, and you know, she's received a lot of flack for the shit that she's done and the decisions that she's made, but they're decisions that every single one of us has thought about. And she lived in a different time and she lived in a different community, and I'm sure for her it was the only option that she had. And she's been a butt of a lot of jokes in our community, and I find that to be really disgusting, because a lot of these other girls also have silicone making fun of her, and I'm just like, really, girl? Because this is going to be you in a couple of years sitting up here on live crying about how your body is turning against you because of what you did to it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, can I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
I like my body, like I'm pretty thin. I'm pretty like, I have a little shape, not a ton, but a little bit. But I look pretty much exactly like my cis sister. Like we have the exact same body type. Like cis women come in different sizes. Like we're both tall and thin with not very big hips. Like that's just what we're tall and thin. Like women come in different sizes, like all shapes. Like there isn't like, why do you feel like this is peak femininity when just when we were growing up, I remember personally when like 2003, no hips, no waist, no nothing was peak beauty.
And low-rise jeans. Low-rise jeans and no shape. No shape at all. And the thong.
Like girls who were shaped like me were peak beauty. Like, you know, just thin and weight. Like that was.
Well, and let's be real, it's a racial thing too, right? Like a skinny girl who is trans will get away with it if she's white, but not if she's black sometimes, because the black community has different standards for beauty. So.
But also with society now, black culture is prevalent, and black culture is what's driving everything. You see it in music, how hip hop and rap is number one. Where in 2003, where skinny bodies with the thongs, it was pop music. You saw people like Christina Aguilera in the Dirty music video. She had no body at all. Now Christina Aguilera is bodied down. You see people like Lil' Kim, for instance. Lil' Kim used to be a stick figure who was dark-skinned. Now she's a light-skinned, voluptuous woman. And when you see things like that, you think, why is it like it's because of society, it's because of standards. But I just can't. It's hard.
And my question is, what happens when the pendulum swings back the other way and the trend is to be thin again? Do you know what I'm saying? Because let's pretend like it's not going to last forever, because in the 90s it was all about boobs. Now it's about ass. It's gonna go back eventually, and then what are you going to do with your body?
It's all trends. It's just like with eyebrows, for instance. You can really see where somebody grew up and the trends that they had when they were growing up, because you walk around and you see women who are in their 40s and 50s with eyebrows none, and they have to draw them on, and they have to do microblading because thin eyebrows were in. And now it's not a trend anymore. Now the trend is your eyebrows should be natural and thick and bushy. And it's just like, I feel like if people you really have to just learn to love yourself. And you have to learn to accept that everybody comes in different shapes and sizes. Social media has completely ruined the psyche of Americans and the world, because everybody wants to attain this image. I just can't get over the fact of Nicki Minaj at the VMAs when she was sitting on that chair and she lifted her leg up and her butt was literally a stone and her thigh was jutting out and it was not moving.
And a lot of people asked what that was. A lot of cis people specifically, they're like, I don't understand how that could happen. But any trans person looking at that moment immediately knew what that was. Like, there was no way you didn't know. But we've known that about Nikki for years. It's not like a secret. We've always known that about Nikki. There's no way that her butt got that much bigger by any other means. And just so you guys know, there are no butt implants that look like that. If you ever get butt implants, the reasons why people don't get butt implants is because they look extremely unnatural. They don't look real. And there is still a chance that they are not going to be good for your body, just like anything else. We've all seen that video of that woman, like, turning her butt implant around in her butt. And it was gross and nasty. But that just goes to show, like, you're literally trusting a human being to put something in your body. And you better trust that person well. You better trust them well, because it's your life, girl. Kanye West's mom died on the table, and he is a millionaire, billionaire. Do you know what I'm saying? So,
and he paid for it.
And he paid for it.
He paid for it. He was the one who was like, he was gun-ho for her getting it. He was like, love yourself, do this, do what you gotta do to attain an image. And she was perfectly fine. If she wanted to do it, that's up to her. And unfortunately, she passed away before they even were able to cut into her. She passed away. Do you get what I'm saying? But it's everyone trying to attain this thing. Me personally, I will never get implants. I have enough fat on me. Transfer all the fat to my titties, my ass. Transfer wherever you got to transfer it. I'm not going to do it because it's just the foreign object in your body. You never know what it's going to do. You see on YouTube now, like Time the Infinite, for instance, she had to get her implants out because they were making her sick. Her breast implants for years.
We all saw that video. And if you haven't seen it, please go take a look. Please go, because it's the same thing.
Yeah, her, Carissa Pucas, I don't know how you pronounce her last name. She's really big. I think her video has a couple million. Alexandra Girly Talk is another one. She's really big. She has like 2-3 million subscribers. She had to get hers removed because of it. Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
They're getting them removed. And the reasoning for it, like I guess you'd say even medical term, is it's silicone poisoning from the implants. Even if you get saline, the outer casing of the implant is made of silicone. So it's silicone poisoning. So, I mean, even breast implants, which we've been doing for decades that have been deemed as perfectly normal, perfectly healthy, are now making cisgender women's bodies rot, as well as trans women. So imagine what the free-floating, God knows what, grade of silicone you're getting put in you is doing. If breast implants are killing girls.
Yeah, and they sometimes get it from hardware stores. Like, I don't want y'all to think that this is light in any sense of the word. Like, if you are a younger trans person, you end up seeing this for some reason, please regard your life with the highest level of care, because you didn't fight. You did not fight through transition and all of the hard stuff and like all of the discrimination so that you could die in 10 years. I'm sorry. I don't agree with that mindset. I don't think 10 years is enough time for you to truly enjoy your life, especially considering you don't know what's going to happen. You don't even know if it's going to be 10 years. Do you know what I'm saying? It may be fucking 3. You have no idea. If they hit a vein and there's like, if that gets in your blood, okay, so I'm going to tell us a quick story. There was a girl who I know who had silicone, and she posted in the network, and she had gotten into a car crash with a couple of other girls, and immediately after getting in the car crash, there was some, very, she wasn't seriously hurt, but she was thrown around, and she hit herself where her silicone was in the car. And she noticed that she was having severe pain, she was having tremors and all these other things, and she couldn't go to the doctor. Because what happens when you go to the doctor a lot of the times in the United States and you have silicone inside your body is they don't want to touch you. And the reason why they don't want to touch you is because they don't know how to fix that problem. They can't take it out of you a lot of times. You have to go to specialists in other countries. The girl we were talking about earlier, she had to go to, I believe, South America to get it done. There are a lot of people in the United States who will not even touch or take it out of you. So once you get it done, there's a chance you won't even be able to get it taken out unless you have the money and are able to go to a different country to get that done. So it's a lot more permanent than people think it is. It's really crazy.
Yeah, it's very similar to like, even like, this is a interesting or a weird analogy, but it's like a tattoo. You can get a tattoo for $40 to remove that. Oh my God, it's going to be so painful. It's going to be thousands. I've heard of girls who get silicone removal and it is like $20,000-$30,000 just to scrape a little bit of it out, just the problem area, and doctors charge you 30-40 grand because, like we just said, it's not, they're liable, if something goes wrong. You can't just get it removed. There's literally no way to remove it unless you literally just cut your limbs off, basically.
Yeah,
because it travels, because it's free flowing, it travels. There are girls who gotten silicone in their thighs and not even their butt. and it's in their back.
Oh, the
I mean, you
back.
see it,
Oh,
It's
yeah.
in their back. Oh, that's
it's in their
awful.
back. There's nothing you can do when it's in your back and it's wrapped around your spinal cord. There's nothing you can do. I mean, there's an episode of Iyanla Fix My Life with a woman who had all of these surgeries and now she has to go in and she has to get everything taken out and she was rotting. She was corroding from the inside out. And it's like when you see these things and then you still have girls. For instance, let's bring up Pose one more time real quick. When that Pose episode, the only thing that bothered me was the lady who did the silicone for Candy was like, oh, I have the silicone, I mix in stuff with it, my own special recipe, blah, blah, blah. It costs this amount of money. Candy got it done. Angel did not. And then Angel went to the nurse practitioner, who was more expensive, and still got it done. But the butt of the joke is still Candy getting illegal silicone.
Mhm.
So to me, it's just like, girl, everyone does it.
Everyone.
It's just that homegirl went to somebody who botched her, and she was sick.
Because there's no right way to do it. Do you know what I'm saying? There's no
right way.
there's no official way.
There's no right way.
So it's
Nope.
crazy to think about, but like Nicki Minaj and Cardi B are going to the same girls we're going to. It's really weird, but it's true because
Mona Lisa, they won't Mona Lisa Marie, La Diva.
my thing is like, bitch, how do you not look at the girl who's injecting you and say, this is not a good idea? Because in a lot of cases, you may not know this, obviously, because you guys don't know about pumping, but pumping, when you go to get pumped, half the time, these girls are practicing on themselves. So you will encounter a woman who has a chin down to here, cheeks out to here, her butt is everywhere, her hips are as big as they can be, and she is like literally a Frankenstein of silicone. Like, that's how bad it is. And like, you let that
She looked
person...
like a Broadway production.
Yeah, you let that person, and I even knew a woman who got it in her chin because back in the day it was too expensive to get your chin done or your anything to get done. You know, if you're somebody who doesn't have money, it's too expensive. I know girls who put it in their chin and then it fell into a complete triangle, like like Maleficent triangle. And that's because it has to go somewhere over time. It has to
Yeah.
go somewhere. And yeah,
And it's just sitting
it was
there
technically
hard.
not a square jaw anymore, but it was a triangle. I don't understand how that's any better, but you know, whatever. She ended
I
up
mean, you see
killing
girls
herself.
Like that. That's so sad. But you see, like, for instance, Samantha James. You see Samantha James,
Mhm.
Cookie Tookie,
Cookie
Samantha
Tookie.
Revlon.
Somebody was talking about T.S.
Legendary.
Madison earlier too. Poor T.S. Madison.
T.S. Madison. But if you look at Cookie Tookie, if you look at her face, her cheeks are like this. Her cheeks are like this. You have girls like Sanaya, for instance. Sanaya. Sanaya is beautiful. She's well known in the ballroom community. They call her Toni Braxton, all of that. But you look at her face and you see the silicone.
Mhm.
And then it's just like, when you see that, I'm just like, girl, you're beautiful, but your face.
The
now
cheeks.
is drooping.
The cheeks are
The
always
cheeks.
probably the worst. Like you almost look like some sort of like, I don't know, like an animal. I guess the only thing I could like compare you to
They
because
droop.
nobody's human cheeks look like this. It's not even a good illusion. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like you can tell that there's something weird inside of your face. You look like Gaga when she was doing that one album. Like it looks like almost like a prosthetic. It's so crazy.
Look at Kimura from RuPaul's Drag Race. And she had the nerve to be like, oh, I've never gotten anything done. But your
That's
cheeks
okay.
are uneven.
To be fair, okay, so we want to talk about the girls and how they're influencing, right? Eden and all these other people. But the other thing I forgot about is Drag Race. Drag Race is glorifying silicone injections in a lot of ways.
100%.
In a lot of ways.
Trinity, the Tuck Taylor, is filled with silicone. I swear she's probably 50-60% silicone.
Yeah.
And she is praised. She
Oh,
is
yeah.
looked at like she is the most beautiful girl ever. But baby, you are pumped. You are pumped and snipped and everything like that. And you don't know how long you're going to be here. And then you have RuPaul who sits there and glorifies it and says, girl, you have body, you have this and that. Oh, she jiggles, she's smooth, she's soft. Just because the ass move don't mean it's soft. Everybody jiggle. We're human beings. She's still hard, and at the end of the day, there's going to be complications.
Mhm.
It doesn't hydrogel at all.
And
So
it's just
that's
it's not ever talked about on that show ever. And I think that's a little bit of a crazy oversight considering that RuPaul's been along for so long. I know he knows what silicone is. I know that Michelle knows what silicone is. And for Michelle to take out her implants because of something like breast implant illness, and for them to sit on that stage and then also herald people for having silicone in their bodies, for being passable, for being fish, that's crazy to me. So it's okay for that person to die, but not for you. Do you know what I'm saying? And I understand their position, and like it's hard to criticize people for their silicone because that's their decision. But on a stage like that on TV, where now it's on VH1, fun. Do you know what I'm saying? There are going to be
Yeah.
gay kids doing drag who think it's okay to just go get pumped because it's easier than putting on hip pads every week. Do you know what I'm saying? And what's even crazier is it's gay men getting silicone put in their bodies, and they suffer through dealing with people judging them as men with hips and butt because they think it's easier for them. Like detox.
I think RuPaul has it in his chest. That's why his breast contour is so.
Yeah, because he said he uses socks, and I'm like, honey, socks don't give you that kind of lift. I don't care what kind of lighting you got. That's just the truth.
What about you, Kat? Have you ever thought of getting tongue?
I did for a brief second when I was a baby trans. And that was when I was like very much like trying to be like the other girls and stuff like that. But then I was going to the same people as the girl in LA who does it, who is D something. Anyway, I think she got arrested for actually killing someone, if I remember correctly.
It's a very common thing in our community, yes.
Yes. From pumping, I want to say.
Yeah.
Do you remember that story from a couple years ago as like the pumper who she killed one of the girls?
Yep, a lot of girls went to her that we know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
it's super unfortunate, and like you can't say anything to them other than please don't. Do you know what I'm saying? That's like, and we've all said it to them like a million times because we love them. Like, and I don't want anybody that we've spoken about to feel like I'm judging them. These girls are my heroes in a lot of ways. These are the girls I looked up to when I joined the group that I was in. I may have been an admin in the group that I was in, but I was just as much, and still am as much, not at that same level as any of those girls are. And you know, in the sense of the where we put them in our heads as trans women. I won't say it's right that we do that. Do you know what I'm saying? It's obviously very problematic, and it makes us insecure. But we will always, we're women. We will always compare ourselves to other people. And of course, we're going to find trans women as our direct competition. We're not going to compare ourselves to cis women because that just doesn't resonate with us because they're not the same. But trans women have created this whole other image that, like Mahogany has said, you know, even society has appropriated at this point. Like everybody wants to have a transsexual body. Everybody wants to wear a wig and have full beat. Like the amount of makeup that 13-year-olds put on now, I'm just like, you will never have that skin again. Like you should not wear makeup right now because when you get 30, you're going to wonder, like, I should have like just not worn makeup while my skin was good because it's crazy. It's crazy to see like little cis girls like do like a 10-step foundation routine.
My niece wears like drag, like a, not like a drag beat, but a heavier beat than I've ever worn. I can tell you that much. And I'm just like, you're beautiful. You're 15. It's like, you don't need this much, girl. You know?
You see girls like Emery Bigham on freaking YouTube, the Ariana Grande impersonator.
I know who that is.
I love her. She's so funny, but she literally has more highlighter and more foundation than I've ever worn in my life. And it's just like, girl, I had to cover razor bumps and everything. And you are putting on cake on cake on cake. And you're like, I'm so beautiful. And it's just like, sweetie, put down the makeup. If you're 13, you should pick up some hyaluronic acid. You should be doing anything to preserve that baby skin. Like love that skin. Because the minute your skin gets pimply and you get poke marks and all of that, you're going to look a mess. And makeup don't cover up bumps. Makeup don't cover pores.
Listen, as much as we try, this is the funny part is that they're misinterpreting the beauty standard. I think they look at drag queens, people on Drag Race, or like transsexuals or other people, and they get this idea that that's what's required to look strikingly beautiful. But the reason we're doing it is because we're trying to hide things. Like we're wearing thick foundation because we have stuff to hide. We're wearing color corrector because we have stuff to hide. There's no reason for a cis girl to have a full face of orange color corrector on. There's no reason. Why? Why are you doing that?
The amount of videos I've seen of girls and they're putting MAC orange lipstick. They're doing a full face of just orange, and then putting 4 more layers of like
foundation. I'm sorry.
Like you've never even sprouted one hair on your face ever.
And like that's why I'm like, I don't think that they get that they understand what we're doing. Like I don't think that they get it completely. Do you know what I'm saying?
They think it's like for, I know a lot of them do it, and they're like, oh, it's like for, you know, color correcting, like dark circles, and it's like, no, it's not why we're doing it, honey.
No.
They have this for dark circles. Okay, it says it on age rewind, erase dark circles. You don't need to be putting this on your face all over, and then you take double wear.
I said, girl, where's mine at?
I've seen girls
I
take
said, bitch.
orange and then girl. I've seen girls and then they take banana powder and set the orange and then put foundation over. I'm just like, who taught you, number one, that old drag technique? Who the hell taught you that?
Exactly.
Number two, why are you doing it? Like, you have wonderful skin. Like, I hardly wear makeup now because it was such a chore in the beginning because I was just like, I'm hiding stuff. Now that I don't have so much to hide, it's just like, I don't have to dump a bunch of makeup on my face. And I think it's very funny how, as a trans woman, I see other trans women too, how we really walk around more natural than a lot of cis women who are trying to emulate us, and we're trying to emulate them, and it's like the roles have reversed.
Well, they're trying to emulate us when we go out, to be fair, because a lot of us will be, you know, well, I mean, at least me. During the day, I'm very, very pared down. But if I go out, that's a different story. That's a full moment.
If you're going out, that's fine. But to see a girl when I'm going to work at 10 in the morning have the fullest beat on, and her highlight is touching her eye, and she looks like a gay man on
Girl, she's
Instagram
still
Live
baking in the
on-
car, getting ready to
She's still
at
baking.
Starbucks.
I've seen girls do it in the Uber, like putting on full beats with a wet beauty blender. I was just like, there's no reason why you have Mario Badescu in your purse. What are you doing, sis? Like, it's just too much. Like, it's too much. But the beauty industry is loving it.
Of course they are. Of course they are. And they're totally making money off of all of our shit. What's even more rotted is that they've done all of this, right? But then they want to give classes to trans people at Sephora about how to apply their makeup. And let me bet you at least $100, at least, that none of these bitches know how to apply makeup to a trans woman's face. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they will take you in there. Don't ever go to a MAC counter or a Sephora as a trans woman. Find another trans person who knows how to do their makeup and ask them nicely, because you're not going to find some cis woman who's going to know how to color correct your beard. You're not going to find a cis one who's going to be able to conceal your, any amount of features you may have as a trans woman that you're trying to disguise or change. That's never going to happen. These cis girls are not trained. They don't know how to do it. We all had to learn, and we learned from each other. Do you know what I'm saying? So,
exactly.
And it's all these old ass, it's either like really young, like nerdy, techie trans women, or old as fuck who probably, like, no offense, need it the most, who are like least connected to beauty, who are going to these classes too. It's not like girls like us who are going to those classes. It's like girls who are not connected.
And they're wrong to them. They won't pluck their eyebrows. They'll let them like have a dark lip and like a smoky eye and walk out midday like that. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, why would you do that to her? Why would you send her? She's going to go do her makeup like that for work the next day. Do you know what I'm saying? And then she looks crazy at work because people don't wear a smoky eye and a dark lip in the middle of the day. Well, now they do. Now they do. I'm not going to say that anymore because I feel like in LA, I can walk around at any time during the day and see somebody in a lace front and like really dark lipstick. It's just a normal thing.
I went to, quick though.
Yeah, go ahead.
I went to a Sephora counter once. Only once. And a gay black man, he was really nice. He said, you don't match. So I said, oh, I don't? Okay, because when I look outside in my camera, I look fine. And he put on some Urban Decay all-nighter all over my face and was like, oh, you look beautiful, you look gorgeous. I went to work the rest of the day. I did it on my lunch break. I went to work. I went home on the bus. I came home. I walked in. My aunt did and said, girl, you look like a floating, ashy, dark head. Because I realized, because I color correct and I know how to work my face because I have a trans face, he did not know what he was doing and put on a dark foundation to cover everything, which was not my undertone. I was looking ashy, and then put no blush, no nothing, and then highlighter. And I was walking around thinking I was that girl.
And they will still gas you up. They will gas you up right at that counter. They will gas you up and be like, leave, girl. You look good. Go to work.
Girl, you look so good. They were like, look at your brows, baby. They were like, look at your skin. You look flawless. They're like, you have no pores. Oh, I love this. And I got home and I really looked in the mirror in some good lighting. And I said, wow, you look rotted. You look a mess. And you were walking around thinking you were that bitch. I don't trust no one at a makeup counter.
And like Kat said, it's mostly, I've seen most of the people interested in those Sephora classes I've seen has been older transitioners from people I know. And so it's really hard to watch them go in and get their makeup done and just have them leave when I know I could have done a better job. And I'm not a makeup artist. I don't ever claim to be, but I know that I could have helped Sis conceal her beard. I could have plucked her eyebrows. I could have told her to fix her hair in a different way. Do you know what I'm saying? So that you can't see the sides of her face the same. There's a lot of different tips that are included in like transitioning that have nothing even to do with makeup. Like it's a
not
lot.
At all. It's like hair. It's like it's the way you wear your hair. It's the way you pluck your eyebrows. It's the way you even put mascara on. There are certain things you do that will make you more feminine without having to have a full beat on your face.
Mhm.
If you are going to have a full beat, at least apply it correctly and don't go to a little white girl who's going to, she's just trying to pump you with products. That's all she's trying to do, trying to sell you products.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up our next topic. I feel like we've gotten that. Okay, let's talk about medicating really quick, just because it's an important topic that we covered before. I know that we probably don't have a super lot to say, but so you guys are aware, trans women obviously take hormones. And if you do or do not know, they are readily available, but in some situations, let's say your family's not supportive, you're extremely poor, you don't have access to a doctor, you have no health insurance. There are lots of different reasons why you may not have access to hormones. What we used to do in the group was we bought hormones from other countries, and that was a very normal thing. And some people still do it, and I'm not saying necessarily that they are poisonous or that they won't work for you, because in a lot of cases they're still hormones. Do you know what I'm saying? But I don't trust hormones coming from some island on Vanuatu. That's just me. Or from Mexico. I know trans girls who have even taken birth control and like expired birth control in an attempt to become more feminine. And I don't know that you could be any more desperate than that. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's just something I wanted to talk about because we've all kind of been through this. I personally do not take hormones because you can't necessarily always remain active in every way when you're on hormones. So that's something that I've chosen to do personally. But let's go ahead and start that conversation. Mahogany, what's your opinion and insight on hormones?
I love hormones. At first, I was very against hormones. I didn't want to take hormones, but that's because I was scared. I think a lot of things have to do with fear and fear of the unknown, and you don't know what's going to happen to your body and this and that, but also fear of advancing and being who you actually want to be. That can be a very scary thing. But I love hormones. I prefer shots over pills. Shots have done wonderful things for me. I was just like, holy shit, I love a shot. But I had the privilege of having insurance. And I had the privilege of my hormones literally costing me nothing. So because of that, I take full advantage of it, and I take my hormones all the time. If you do have to self-medicate, the only thing I would say if you're self-medicating, at least try to get it from a girl that you know, and not some of these websites. And now a lot of the websites require you to have a prescription. So at the end of the day, like if you don't go to a doctor and get a prescription, you still can't get it online now. They really cut out a lot of those avenues, channels. But really get it from someone you trust. Like I have extra bottles of Spyro here. Like if somebody wants them, like girl, give me $10. But it's just like with me, it's just like I don't mind. Do you get what I'm saying? Even though it's against the law, if I'm helping a girl out, I'm helping a girl out. But I'm not. I don't want anyone to take anything that would harm them. Like with the birth control thing, a lot of girls I remember were taking birth control. A lot of them were stealing their mother's birth control. They're stealing their sister's birth control and taking it, and then wondering why. Oh, well, my beard is thicker now, and I'm growing more hair, and this and that. Girl, because it's not doing what it's supposed to do. That's not what it's supposed to do. You're just adding more estrogen into your testosterone-filled body. Like all you're doing is upping that testosterone, girl. Like you are just becoming more and more of a brick, if you're really being honest. So, just go through the proper channels of getting hormones. It's difficult in a lot of places still to do that, but especially if you don't live in a major city. I live in Philadelphia, where there's a huge trans center here. If you're in New York or in California, there are huge gay health centers and trans health centers that specialize in these things. If you don't, try to find a community that can help you out, because community over anything is what we really have to hold on to.
And there are a lot of girls who do have surplus hormones that they have not taken. The only quick tip I would give on that is if they're pills, be very careful with pills. And this is just in general, be very careful with pills because they're very heavy on your liver. And if you're taking anything like in conjunction with that, like other pills, it can seriously fuck up your liver, which is why you have to take blood tests normally if you go through the proper channels, because they test your blood to make sure that there's nothing serious happening to your liver or anything else like that. But shots are the safest, or maybe the patch. I've heard a lot of people say that the patch is not really that great. But yeah, just wanted to quick piggyback to that one little note, but Mahogany, go ahead.
I just, I think when it comes to hormones, it's your decision if you want to take hormones. Like you brought up, you don't take hormones for certain reasons.
Mhm.
I will say, once you take hormones, there are certain things you cannot do. There are certain things you cannot do. Hormones will break you the fuck down. If you're on your proper dosage with your doctor, hormones will do exactly what they're supposed to do. But you have to let them work. It's not an overnight thing. It's not like silicone or something like that. I would say let those 2 years of hormones ride out and see where you are then. And then from there, go to surgeries and everything like that. Because that's what you're supposed to do. Let your body really adjust and grow and go through that fourth puberty, because we go through so many. Go through that puberty, and then from there decide what you want to do. Because before hormones, I was just like, oh my gosh, I want this, this, and this, and I need my this, this, this. I don't need all that shit now, because hormones have really helped me the fuck out. So if you take your hormones, you do what you're supposed to do. You, most of the time, I would say, unless it's really cosmetic or something that you really want to change, you could be good. I just.
And we've all met those girls. It's funny because off of something that she said reminded, we've all met those girls who take hormones for like the first couple of months, and like they'll start making posts like, oh my god, look at my skin, oh my god, look at my nose, look at my feet, look at my jaw. And it's like, it gets to a point where I just need y'all to understand that hormones do a very specific thing, okay? And if you're a trans person, I want you to know they're not a magical wand, okay? You're not going to take hormones and then the next thing you know, your bones are going to shrink. Nothing is ever going to happen to your bones. Once your bones have developed, they are bones, unless you get them sawed down, which a lot of girls do. But like your shoulders are not going to change. Your jaw is not going to change. Fat redistribution will change, of course. Natural things in your body. Your skin will improve. Lots of other things. Do you know what I'm saying? They'll get softer. But you're not going to like, your feet are not going to get smaller. I've heard so many people say the feet thing, and like, it's never going to happen. Your feet do not shrink, girl. You will be wearing that size 11 to 14 for a while. It's just the way it is, unless you get your toes topped off. But yeah, Cassidy, did you have experience with hormones that you wanted to share?
I am personally triggered because I have been one of those girls that have claimed that my feet have and hear me the fuck out. Hear me the motherfucking out.
Here we go.
The reason I say this is because before hormones, I did drag, obviously. Well, drag is putting it lightly.
I saw you once, actually. I was in the same room with you. I saw you in, where did I see you in? I think it was in Fresno, I think.
Fresno.
Yeah, it was in Fresno.
Yeah, Fresno. Yeah. I did drag. That was actually drag. That was the only time I've ever.
But to be fair, it wasn't drag. You were beautiful. You were a beautiful trans woman. You were just more done up than normal.
Yeah,
do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. That's what I mean. And like even in high schools, I started dressing as a girl and going to school when I was 14 years old. And like once a month, I'd go to school dressed as a girl, and the whole school would be like, "Oh my God, Cassidy Lynn is coming to school tomorrow." It was ridiculous. But back then, I bought shoes. I loved shoes. They were like my obsession. And I 100% was a size 10, and some of those were tight on me. I am a size 9 now. And hear me the motherfuck out. My friend Bobby, I would talk to her about it all the time. She was cisgender. She was a cis girl. And we would put our feet, like one time in particular, because I put on a pair of her shoes and they were like, I think an 8 or a 9 or something. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm a 10. And I put them on and they like actually fit me. And I was like, whoa, that's like the weirdest thing ever. And I was like, how does that fit? Because they were, I think, like a size 8. And we put our feet next to each other and our feet were the exact, she was like a 7.5, 8. Her feet were the exact same length as me from heel to toe. The width of my foot was like double the width of hers. So I was like, oh, that's why. And then it was funny because after I saw that,
weight in your feet.
That's the thing. I looked at my shoes and all my shoes were like
wide.
Super wide. Well, then I started taking hormones, obviously, whatever. And then like about a year into hormones, I started realizing like all those 10s were way too big for me. They were loose on me. And I think it's kind of similar to like the hands. I know a lot of my hands are 100% different. And I think my feet did the same thing. I don't think my feet shrunk because the bones never did. But I think it broke down some of the muscle. I think that was making my feet wider the same way that it makes your hand, you know, like kind of more square and more wide. Because I mean, I still got pretty wide feet, and obviously I do not claim that my feet have shrunk whatsoever. But my shoe size has actually gone down, and I think it's because the width of my feet is not as wide. But Hormones in general, though, I mean, I have been technically self-medicating for the past like 4 years that I've lived here in Kentucky. I buy my hormones online on these infamous sites. I'm pretty confident in what I'm getting, that it's okay. Currently, especially since the orchiectomy, I don't take Spiro anymore, which was the main reason I wanted to get this orchiectomy done. I was just so done taking Spiro. I don't know. I'm debated about, a lot of girls are now starting to say Spiro is basically poison, and I'm debated about how the claims of how terrible Spiro is for you. But in general, my biggest thing was I don't want to take more pills than I need to. I don't want to take a lot of pills in general. So whether it's poisonous or not, I just would rather not take it. And I wanted an orchiectomy anyway, so it was perfect. But I just take I've been taking the same dose that I was prescribed when I did have a doctor in California. Obviously, the reason I self-medicate here is because I don't have a doctor. I just got insurance though, like about 9-10 months ago. That's how I was able to get my orchiectomy. Thank the Lord. They were so great at the place I went. They coded it, and
just a quick pause. Could you, in a very PC way, explain what an orchie is? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't know what an orchie is, and that's probably important to your story.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I explained it earlier, but if there's new people that don't know what orchiectomy is, the removal of the testicles. And the biggest benefit of it is, I mean, you're not fighting your own body anymore by producing testosterone. Because whether you're on hormones or not, I mean, if you're transgender, and you have testicles, they are producing testosterone. And so I felt like I was always fighting my body with my hormones, and I was always trying to take super high dosages, especially taking pills, which are not as effective. I felt like I was taking so much more than I needed to, because I was just fighting my own body, and it still wasn't working. That laser wasn't working. The hair was coming back, and this was still there, and things were there that should not have been there. Like, things were happening that on 5 years on hormones, 6 years on hormones should not have been happening. So I'm very happy I got the surgery, but I still self-medicate. But I actually have, ironic we're talking about this, July 12th, I have a appointment at the UK University of Kentucky Transform Health Clinic, which is like this new trans clinic they're trying to do. And it's still very, very low key. I think they only take appointments like 2 days a month. It's like every other Friday or something, or every other whatever day I'm going. And I'm really excited. They're most likely going to, I've talked to them on the phone. And so what they should be able to do for me is find me a trans-friendly primary care provider, as well as a trans-friendly endocrinologist, and prescribe me hormones, blood tests, all that kind of stuff, which is really awesome. Because I was very, very, very fortunate, naively fortunate. I didn't know how fortunate I was when I lived in California. Oh my God, California has hormones on like down to the T. I mean, I went in for hormones and it was a snap of a finger.
Oh yeah, girl, they'll give them to you in like a quarter machine in California. You can go anywhere, get a hormone, girl, it's fine.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. And then here, it was not like that at all.
Look, girl, it's Kentucky, like, I'm glad to hear that they even have what they do, because, it's hard. It's hard. I'm sure growing up there and, like, living there, it's very difficult for people. I've had a couple of comments in chat about, the discussion about the shrinking your feet. And I understand that fat redistribution does happen. I actually said that specifically when I made that comment. So there are a number of people who are kind of trying to dispute what I'm saying. And you can say that, but the truth is that I'm talking about very specific examples of people who are delusional. Delusion is something that happens in the trans community. And I'm sorry if you hit dogs holler the most, is what I will say. If you're very offended by what I'm saying, there's a chance that you may be a victim of what I'm actually saying right now. And it is true that, like, there are a lot of people who exaggerate about the effects of hormones, which I think is unhealthy and a way of confidence. I don't think you should tell a girl that it's going to fix all of her problems, because it's not. And she will quickly figure that out and look for other quick fixes like silicone or other dangerous things. And that's why you just have to be realistic and say, hey, girl, I look at my body. I waited 2 years and it's here. Do you know what I'm saying? You don't have to go and get softball tits. You don't have to go and get pumped. Do you know what I'm saying? You can just wait. Just wait. Save your money. Do you know what I'm saying? Don't be impatient, because it's going to come back at you. Yeah.
Just see where you are and see where you go.
That
feet thing, We all know who that is.
But
We
like
all know
Cassidy
who
was
that
saying,
is.
it is the width of your feet. It's not the length usually as somebody who is born male. That's why it's usually like the pointed toe shoes that are the hardest for trans women to fit into because they have a smaller
Mhm.
toe box. But the rounder shoes, you can fit in like a 10 or a 9 or whatever. The shoe size is even important. The reason why is because of the
There's
shape of the feet.
flexibility.
And the material is obviously important too. How about you, Kat? Because you are post-op, hormones are different for you. Are they still required for a post-op girl?
Yeah, so basically, my body is really almost no different than Cassidy's because an orchiotomy and being post-op from gender reassignment, where I have a vagina, um, hormonally we're the same. We're pretty much the same as postmenopausal women, more or less. So we produce very little estrogen and very little testosterone. Like every time, I've been fortunate that when I started medically transitioning about 5.5 years ago, I live in Seattle, so it's very trans competent. I believe we have the highest trans population in the United States, so it was very easy to find my primary care physician, my endocrinologist are all one and the same. She's wonderful. She handles everything. I see her every 6 months to get blood tests and have my levels monitored. I do injections personally, and I've been on injections. I'm very much an advocate for, I may not be the fishiest or the most cunt, as they say, trans girl ever, but these are my breasts. I grew myself. This is my face from estrogen. And I definitely look very much like a boy, beforehand. And it's not, I mean, I may have been a little bit more of a femboy, sure, but I definitely look like a boy and not like this. So my belief is, I've been fortunate that I can stick onto this, but stick to your hormones because change does happen and it takes time for sure, but you will see change happen in your body. And that's really it.
Somebody in the chat brought up the comparison. Sorry, just a quick interjection. Somebody in the chat brought up the comparisons between male and female transition and how male to female transition is very different from female to male as far as hormones are concerned. And I want people to understand when you see a trans man, their transition is so much different than ours because they are producing muscle and growth where it didn't exist before. So it's easier for them to completely transform. Whereas with us, if you are somebody who's developed after puberty, you have to go back and try and like roll back the tracks. So for example, they develop deeper voices, whereas our voices never go back because those things have already developed inside of our throat. And so we have to go and actually get a surgery to get that. I know a lot of people think that our plight is the same in this community. And I'm not trying to downplay what they have to deal with, but their journey is very different than ours. Their hormone journey is very different than ours. And I do want to give quick credit to the first girl I ever saw getting a hormone shot, and that is Isis King on America's Next Top Model. Because if I had never ever seen the T-Girl Network, which I give great credit to the T-Girl Network, I ran it, but it wasn't my idea. It was Kat's, and she ran it, and I just took it over to kind of keep people from turning on her, regardless of what she wants to think. And I just want to point out very clearly, that it is a very valid way to transition. I'm fine with hormones. Everything's great. Just do it the right way, guys. Listen to other girls who are on hormones. More importantly, what I did was I got on YouTube. Go ahead, Kat. You look like you got something to say.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say I have to sign off. It was Ben.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. It was good to see y'all. I love y'all.
Thank you so much, Kat. Thank you.
Bye, honeys.
Okay, give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to go ahead and fix this. But in the meantime, I'm going to have one of you speak because this needs to be fixed real quick so it's not all crazy.
Real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, not to interrupt, but I wanted to interject super quick. I haven't really been looking at the chat, but I noticed a few comments ago.
Yeah, feel free to talk while I do this, actually.
Okay, yeah. Kelly asked if my chin was natural, and yes, it is. I have not had any facial surgery besides I just got my first round of lip injections like 2 months ago, and I'm getting my second round actually in about 4 days. I'm getting my second round.
Really?
Yeah, I just got
so
one.
Natural.
Oh, thank you. I just got one vial.
So
Thank you. I just got one vial, but I'm gonna get my second vial, or milliliter, cc, whatever you want, however you want to measure it. I'm gonna get my second one in about 4 days. I'm really excited. I think that one's gonna be the one that like does what I want it to do. I really want to get my bottom lip a lot fuller.
I've always thought about getting my lips done, but everyone in my family's like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Like, don't mess with your face. There's one thing, don't mess with your face. And I've kind of adopted that now. Like, I don't know. I feel like in 8th grade with a buzz haircut, I was misgendered, and teachers were like, "Oh, it says M on your sheet. It's just a female." So to me, it's just like I don't want to fuck up a good thing. Like, if I was getting misgendered and called a girl when I was a guy, it's just like, shit. Well, let me not fuck up my face. But it's because girl, honestly, you have a very feminine face. It's just like if your face is round and you have a good cheekbone, girl, you're good to go. Like that's just in my opinion. If you have a good cheekbone and a round face, a lot of other stuff can go away. Because if you look at women, if you look at cis women, a lot of them, you'll be like, shit, what is that? Like I see some of the girls on Instagram, and I'm just like. And usually, since you're one of the girls, you could tell the girls apart. You just be like, that's one of the girls. And then you find out it's not. She's pregnant. I mean...
She's pregnant. Oh, no. Can't repeat that, girl.
Jocelyn Hernandez.
Oh, my God.
For years, everyone thought that she was a straight-up man. Charlamagne would call her Jose. Charlamagne would say horrible things about her. The minute she got pregnant, everybody was like, whoa, what is this? Like... people were shocked.
And it's so crazy how quick straight men will turn on even a cis woman and call her a man if she looks even the slightest bit outside of the ideal. I remember being in school, in like high school, and there was this one girl that played basketball, and she was just tall. She didn't even look like a man. She was just tall. And she got so much shit. They called her a man like every day of her schooling life. Like, it was insane to me.
Horrible. But then, people like Charlamagne and all those people, they're the same people who love to talk shit and call people men, but they're the same ones.
Didn't Charlamagne get his ass ate by a woman, though? So, like, I don't know.
Was it a woman?
Was it? Was she natally born female? Was she?
Wait, was she a woman of gender incongruence? What was it? I want to know. See, when you think about it, when you think about celebrities and everything like that, you think about the people who make the biggest comments about trans people, who are always talking about them. You got people like Lil Boosie, Lil Duval, all these bums who talk this shit. Best believe if a tranny wants to suck your dick, you let them. Like, that's just the truth. And
Charlamagne is the type, too. Charlamagne is definitely the type. We all know the type.
Charlamagne is the type. When Janet Mock was at that radio station, Charlamagne couldn't keep his eyes off of her. He tried, but he couldn't. But it's like, all right, just for instance, this might be a little off topic because I'm talking about Charlamagne in my mind.
No, I'm actually fixing something. Go ahead, girl. Go ahead.
If you think about how trans people are treated in the media right now, a couple years ago, Sydney Starr, as problematic as she is, many people who don't like her, I've had my issues with Sydney, okay, and the way she represents herself. I'm just gonna say herself because she doesn't represent me. She represents herself. Even recently on television, she was on TV on Love and Hip Hop talking about all the boys say I'm forbidden because I got a pretty penis. I was done with her. I said, bitch, I'm done.
I live. I'm sorry.
when she went on Power 105.1 Breakfast Club interview, this was after all the Chimmy stuff happened.
I remember that.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
They disrespected the shit out of her. DJ Envy was misgendering her. Charlamagne was making jokes about her. It was all of that. You see the difference.
Didn't Charlamagne I don't even think he showed up to work that day.
Did he show up?
No, I thought that was the most disrespectful part. He literally did not even show up to work that day, I don't think. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but maybe it wasn't even her. Maybe it was a different trans girl. But I am almost positive it was when Sydney came on. He did not show up to work that day because I thought that was even more disrespectful than anything to her face that they could have done.
It's like, for instance, Janet Mock was on there, right? They were very respectful to Janet, but also it's because of class.
Yeah, because let's not pretend that Janet's not like a certain type of person, and like it would take a lot to disrespect her.
Trans woman. and she's a certain type of person, and if you insult her, then you get a lot of people on you. But if you insult Sydney Starr, people will laugh with you. There's just a difference. Even though Janet Mock is a straight up fucking liar, but that's a completely different conversation.
I mean, not every advocate is in it for everybody else. Sometimes they're in it for themselves.
Exactly. Sometimes they're in it for themselves.
I know an
Sometimes
advocate
they
named
lie.
Carmen Carrera who's definitely not in it for her sisters.
Woo! Oh, do you remember that tea? Oh my
Yeah,
God,
when she
reminds me
said
of
that there are
tea.
some trans women that need to be put
They
down.
need to be put down, and then because she was talking about T.S. Madison, and Ruby screenshotted all of it.
And I
from,
wouldn't still be dragging Carmen if I hadn't seen improvement, but I've seen Carmen still be toxic and gross, just like Gia Gunn is, so...
They're both gross.
I remember watching the video, like the drama between the two, and just Carmen. I don't remember if it's exactly what she said, but she kept just saying something along the lines of like, "I'm doing this for my sisters," and like standing up for sisters and all this stuff. And like all I thought about was that screenshot just floating in my head of some trans women need to be put, so some trans need to be put down.
And the fact that she lied about it and said that it was a fake account, the fact that she was in Anda La Mierda, and she was in that damn group with all of us, and she was talking mad shit, and then Ruby screenshotted, God rest Ruby's soul, Ruby screenshotted everything. I love Ruby, I miss her so much. She screenshotted everything, sent it to T.S. Madison, and then T.S. Madison read the shit out of Carmen Carrera based on what Ruby sent her. I said, now, if this is not camaraderie, I don't know what is. And at the end of the day, well, back to Charlamagne real quick. You see, Janet Mock went on the show. She was talking about her book and trans lives and everything. And then the very next day, Lil Duval is on the show, and he said that if a trans woman tricked him, he would kill her.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh my God.
The very next day, and Charlamagne laughed, Envy laughed, Angela Yee was probably like, all right, that's not cool. And you see this, and you think progress is being made, but we're still a joke. We're still the butt of a joke. Lil Duval, you shouldn't even be bringing up if a girl tricked you. You shouldn't even be bringing it up. Why have you been tricked?
My thing is like, I just don't believe the tricking thing. Like, I don't really believe that. Like, I know that there are girls that stunt. Don't get me wrong. We all know the girls. We all know them. But, like, they're not going after Duval. They're not going after, like, random scrubs. Do you know what I'm saying? They're going after, like, very particular rich men or their escorts. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they aren't out here just trying to scrub on any guy just to get... Because the thing is, we don't get kicks off of tricking you. That's not something... We get kicks off of not dying, not being attacked, not, like... Passing is great for us.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm not gonna lie. When I was younger, I used to get major kicks out of the fact that I could talk to a guy, make out with a guy at a bar, and he would literally not know anything, and I would just be like, "Ooh, girl, I have made it. I am a woman. I am this and that." The older you get, you realize that shit don't matter, because if you're not a woman to yourself, it does not matter.
No, it doesn't.
But when you see people like Lil Duval and Lil Boosie and all these black men with this horrible ideology, I really have to think, why is this the hill that you're deciding to die on? This is the one. This is the one that you're so upset about. What tranny broke your heart? Who hurt your feelings? You had Young Buck talking mad shit about trans women forever. And come to find out, he has dated 3 girls that I have on my Facebook that I know of. He is with a trans woman now. He has been outed how many times? Do you get what I'm saying? These are the men that we deal with. You have Eddie Murphy. You have what's his name? That nasty DJ from New York.
Well, and supposedly that woman that Eddie Murphy was with, he killed her. He got her killed.
He killed her. He got her killed. He definitely did. That is not that's the truth. He got her killed. But you see these things, and it's just like we're in the same place we were before. It's just that the media has shined a light on us. So now we're more easily accessible to be fetishized. We're more easily accessible to be found and to be sought out, especially now that they cut out programs on websites, Craigslist, Backpage, all that. Now trans women have infiltrated every single dating social app that there is.
Come on, Grindr. Come on, gay men trying to get your app back. You wish you could have it back. It's my app now, bitch. It's my app now, bitch. Okay. I just get so much.
option.
I get so much
Like,
hate from gay men for being on Grindr and like, girl, I'm sorry that we came and soaked up all the good mass trade. I don't know what to tell you. They wanted us, and we didn't go for them.
They wanted you to put on that wig and them stockings.
Okay,
But they just
if you
wanted
want
you
it,
bent over.
if you want it, you
That's
need to
it.
commit. Okay, if you want it, you need to
They want to see
commit.
that face. They want to see that face. All right. It's not my fault that same masked guy, that same 6'4" black built BBC was only fucking you when you had on your blonde wig and your stockings. But he'll come over to my house and he'll wine and dine me because I'm a bitch.
Mhm.
I'm sorry that you went through that. Maybe you should put more effort into what you want to do,
Yeah.
or maybe you should find people who like your kink. You know. Like that meme is, my kink is shaming your kink. Like I will do that. Like I have
I will
no
do
problem.
that.
I
Oh
have
my
no
God,
problem.
I could
But
not.
it's just like, come on now. Come on.
Okay, so we did let's see, okay, I think we already talked enough. I was gonna say we did a sex week, but I think we talked enough about sex for the most part. Because the only thing that we covered in that I think was our positions and things, and that's definitely something we already talked about. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our current favorite transsexual celebrities slash influencers and why they should mean something to us, or why we want to share them with the public in general. Because in all honesty, there are a lot of girls to choose from, and it's getting to a point where I feel like the girls who are getting chosen aren't necessarily the girls that are giving any advice. They're not helping anybody. They're just on Instagram selling their wigs, selling their makeup, selling whatever they're selling, which I'm not mad about. Like, I'm very proud that Nikita and Eden are doing their thing. I'm glad that trans women are getting money. I'm always in support of trans women getting money. But at the same time, these are some of the same girls that came up watching our videos, other videos on YouTube that already existed. And there's not a lot being given back to trans girls who have them in their mind as people that they want to be like. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be like Nikita. What is the steps to be like Nikita? And then, like, you have to say, well, it's her body. Do you know what I'm saying? It's her surgery. It's her nose. It's her lace fronts. It's her glamour. Do you know what I'm saying? So who do you guys think are good examples of people that you may watch right now that you're big fans of?
You know,
We were talking about Kim Petras recently.
Oh, I like Kim Petras.
We like Kim
I
Petras.
love Kim.
I don't really watch a lot of trans girls on YouTube anymore. I'm more of a Facebook girl now. I will say that there are many women on my Facebook who do amazing things for the community who don't get enough shine. Lasaya Wade, Elle Hearn, Erin Lang, Aha Simone. Aya Simone is a beautiful harp player, like absolutely talented, like making her own art. You have Erin Lang, who has her own show on PBS. Do you get what I'm saying? You have these girls who are actually giving back to the community and very vocal and very visible in their transition. But they don't get that push because of the color of their skin, but also because of, the fact that they may not fit every box that society wants them to fit. If you see a lot of the girls who are really big now who are trans, a lot of them are Asian, and a lot of them are Asian or Hispanic, and they look Asian, and they also have these bodies, and they're very young and supple and this and that, and it's fetish. A lot of it is fetish. I do like Janet Mock to a certain extent. Laverne, you and I have had conversations about Laverne and how I think she needs a class at Stella Adler for acting because it's just no. But, the stuff she does for the community, I will say she does help the community from time to time when it benefits her. I think with a lot of the girls now, the older ones like Janet and Laverne, it's a lot of time when it benefits them. Like, oh, if it benefits me and I can also help, I'll do that. But when you've created such a huge platform for yourself, you already have your platform. You can't take from the community and not give back. You can't expect our dollar and everything and not give back. I think my favorite trans woman is probably T.S. Madison. I think that'll probably be my favorite trans woman for a long. And Nikki Exotica. I love me some Nikki Exotica. She's a wonderful singer, young, wild, and free. I like to clown her a lot, but she's, she's doing the damn thing. She's trying.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the trans women who I look up to. I want people to look in.
Yeah,
'Cause they
I
deserve
mean,
a shot.
those are great examples, very great examples. Like, obviously, we'd repeat some of those. I
Mhm.
definitely agree about Nikki Exotica. She's somebody. There's a lot of people in our community I just wish people knew about, and that's why I'm so thankful about being in the T Girl Facebook network, which a lot of people are not able to be in, and it still exists, but it's not active. And I was so thankful to know a lot of the girls that ended up in there. It's a certain thing where, like, if you just don't experience these people, your transition in your life and the way you think about things is so different, because they're that helpful when it comes to somebody who's coming up and who's young and is getting ready to transition, and they're looking for people for, like, examples of, can I make this work without it, like, ruining my life, basically. And we need more of those people, because it's hard to look at Nikita and say, oh, that's an example of somebody that I can follow. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it was way different when it was just a bunch of us talking about hormones on YouTube, which doesn't happen as much anymore. That was like a thing from, like, back in the day that was kind of trendy. Now girls don't do it as much anymore. Go ahead, Cassidy. You got something to say, girl?
Oh, no. I was trying to, you had frozen for a minute, and I was like, oh, did my
Yeah, we go through it. We
again?
all go through it a little bit.
Yeah, but I think it was just my internet was kind of messing up. I hate to say that I don't know a whole lot to add to this part. I don't really watch many trans YouTubers anymore, not really. I watch some of the, younger girls and stuff for a little while.
I mean, the bed is kind of dried up, to be honest. Like, when we first came out, like, when you got, like, a lot of, if you guys don't know who Cassidy is, by the way, Cassidy, what was the title? Like, first trans prom queen, or what was it?
Yeah, it was the first trans, or at the very least, even after this came out, I personally got a lot of flack, which I did not know. There were others before me, but I was like the
Oh, yeah,
first
everybody wanted to argue
openly.
about that. Jealous people.
Yeah, I was the first openly big, trans homecoming queen. So yeah, and like I said, I guess now, since then, I've definitely been told plenty of times there were girls before me that have done it. It's just I was the first open one.
But
I
were they
didn't
in
know,
Time Magazine, though? Were they in Time Magazine, is my question. I didn't see them in Time Magazine. Did you?
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, but I watched some of the younger girls for a while. I was friends with some of the other girls, especially my age, the ones that were doing it. What's it called? Elena, even Eden. I mean, I wasn't friendly with Eden, but through connections, a couple degrees of separation. Angela Vanity. I mean, I used to watch. What was her name? Chloe Arden. I used to enjoy her YouTube a little bit. She was kind of just cis girl. I think she's from Canada, just kind of doing her own thing. I haven't watched her in forever. I think I saw recently she got SRS, which is really cool. But yeah, but I don't really watch trans girls that much anymore. No, for no specific reason. I just don't.
I think once you're done with, like, the bigger parts of your transition, I think you have less and less of a reason to kind of go back and, like, constantly watch these girls' videos, because
Definitely.
you start to develop your own path. Do you know what I'm saying? And you've
Yeah,
obviously
definitely.
kind of moved on with your life.
Like Mahogany said, I feel like where I know a lot of trans girls now is Facebook. I know tons of trans girls through Facebook. I'm friends with a lot of trans girls on Facebook. I'm still in like a couple of those kind of groups, the trans groups, well, one specifically. And oh goodness, give me 1 second.
It's fine.
Okay, just 1 second.
In the meantime, what are we talking about right now?
Trans people.
Oh, yeah.
Also,
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
There's not a lot of. I don't think there's a lot of trans representation on YouTube. To be honest with you.
I mean, I think it's melding
ever
now.
been.
Now it's becoming like influencers, and they don't have identities as much as it is. There's a dog.
Hi.
Hi.
What's happening?
Go ahead and keep
Oh,
talking.
my puppy babies.
We know Monroe Bergdorf, actually. We'll get to her in a second.
But yeah, no, I know a lot of Facebook and stuff, and I mean, I'm not gonna say any of them by name just because I have no idea their levels of, what they're doing publicly, that kind of stuff. But I follow a lot of girls, and I think a lot of girls are doing some cool things, like some really cool things happening. I see a lot of girls just them being them. I think it's really cool to see girls that are just doing them and being very authentic, being very 100% themselves and living their truth. And I don't think there's anything more, I mean, as lame as it sounds, I don't think there's anything more inspiring than that. You know, just seeing girls unapologetically be themselves. I love that.
It's crazy because, like, I think I saw you and, like, Nikita and Angela and, like, a couple of other girls come up kind of at the same time on YouTube. And I feel like that was almost the shift of, because obviously you were being recognized as, you know, what you are, on Time Magazine and all these things. You were getting all this press. And it became this thing of, like, I think that was the turning point where we started to get more exposure of trans people. And it started to become this thing of, like, okay, these girls are young. And because you're young, let's be fair, like, the younger you transition, we all know, the better. Like, that's just the reality of things.
Oh, definitely,
the younger you transition, the better. And the reason, a lot of reason why Nikita looks the way she does, why Angela looks, because they all started at a very young age. Do you know what I'm saying? And good for you guys. At this point, that's what we fought for, was for them to get to the point where they're allowed to do that. So, like, that was 100% great. Like, I love that.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, I have several friends, you know, that personally that I'm, like, best friends with, close friends with, that are, like, very close to my age, transitioned at very similar times, started taking hormones at similar times. And it's so funny because we joke, you know, like, that we're, you know, we tend to be a little more prettier, a little more passable, especially than when I say that, I'm meaning, like, compared to, like, these people that are transitioning when they're, like, 50 years old. But it's funny because we joke about the fact, though, that, like, there is now a whole new like, set of girls that are coming in that are literally starting hormones at fucking 8 years old. I mean, it is, FFS surgeons are gonna go out of business, I mean, soon enough. These trans girls are starting so young, and, like, the girls like me and Eden the Doll and Nikita and those kind of girls, we're gonna be looked at like we're, you know, older late transitioners compared to them.
You know, what's funny is I always go off on y'all secretly, because y'all coming for us back in the day and in the group and other things, talking about y'all are old now, and I'm like, just wait until these 8-year-olds transition and y'all look like men to them. Just wait, because y'all are gonna see how it is for you.
Oh yeah. It's hilarious.
Okay, there have been a couple of questions that I'll address and a couple of different people, but I wanted to quickly wrap up by saying that there were two other people that I watched growing up on YouTube, and I want to express, don't ever think that you don't have anything to learn from somebody who transitioned late in life, because that's not necessarily always the case. You know, don't always go to a Nikita Dragon or a Cassidy or a Maho. Like, sometimes it's somebody older that knows more than you. And there were a couple of women on YouTube, especially Raven Ova and the other lady that started with an S. Do you remember who she was? She read everybody. Her name is like Shmoyo.
Oh my God, F dot is not S dot. It's something. It's S something with numbers.
But anyway, she was like mother. Like she's not necessarily, yes, she's light skinned, but she is of. Yes, but she was also a woman of color, but she was light skinned, and she would read the whole internet, honey. Like, there was nothing you could tell her, and I cannot tell you how much I thrived as a trans woman watching her videos, because she would read you, but she was also mother. Like, she wanted our community to be right, and she's never gotten a lot of recognition on YouTube. Her views get like maybe hundreds. Do you know what I'm saying? But like, she's literally Diamond, yes. She's literally fought girls to get out of like penitentiaries and stuff before, that are like in prison there like unjustly. One of the girls like in prison got thrown up against a wall, and they broke her implant in prison, and they left her in a cell, and she was organizing stuff to get, you know, that taken care of. So I just don't want those people to ever be forgotten, because they don't get crazy views, because people don't think they're the most attractive thing in the world. But they taught me a lot about transition, and I still watch their videos today. So that was something.
I used to watch Diamond all the time. I used to watch Diamond has a beautiful story. Everyone should watch it, about the time Trey came over to her house and she had to stab up Trey and they beat him with baseball bats. Girl, it is one of the best stories ever. And then she wore a black veil because she found out that he had died. And she was like, this is the story about this man who hurt me, and I am celebrating his death. And I said, girl, it was beautiful. Her and I have had so much beef in the past, but if it were not for her, I would not be where I am in my transition. She would call me a brick, Medea. She'd be like, bitch, look at that razor bump. You are the ugliest brick ever. She would talk mad shit about me. Almost drove me to really hurt myself, because I was like, I really looked up to you and I loved you, and you have hurt me. But I realized she was telling me these things because, bitch, I was feeling my oats for no reason, because I was a brick, and she helped me out. And it's women like that who really, like her, the woman you're talking about, and Raven Ova gets no credit. Raven, she a little crazy, but Raven Ova get, hey, what's up, what's up,
What's up? How you doing? How you been? Are you getting it in? Is he getting it in for you? Bitch, I love Raven Ova.
People. Like, come on, yo.
When she did a new quick weave like every video. She did a new quick weave every video, bitch. That is some dedication.
30 inches long.
Blonde,
She was
6'13".
Like, 6'13". She would use like 10 times synthetic hair. And she'd be like, girl, I did my quick weave. This is the glue. I did my invisible part. And she was always body down.
Always.
Amazing. I think she a little cuckoo, but
she is a little cuckoo. She is a little cuckoo. That's for damn sure.
She does trans girls. I think she lives in Newark, New Jersey, and she does the trans girls' hair for free. She does hair for free. She does all these beautiful things. Nobody would talk about that though.
Nobody would talk about that.
She is.
Because she does
She's
come
crazy,
off.
though.
She comes off as a little crazy. That is true. Yes. Okay. Another thing I wanted to address quickly. Somebody asked in the comments about this. So one of the topics that we had was collab drama, because that was something that needed to be addressed about our collab when it was going on. So I'm going to quickly address some of the reasons why people aren't here. So people have asked about Cat Black, and the other missing people are Eden, and who was Edie, obviously. These people are not here, not because we're shady, but because we don't actually keep in normal contact with these people. I actually am still friends with the people that I've talked to today. I've talked to Cassidy, I've talked to Mahogany, I've talked to these people outside of this. We keep normal contact. We're all living our own lives and we're busy and we're not always talking. Do you know what I'm saying? But I seriously have not talked to Edie in a very long time. And the last time I talked to her, I tried to reach out to her and she had nothing to say to me. So I did not choose to include her in this for that reason, nor do I think she really cares if she's included. So it doesn't really matter. Cat Black has no contact with any of us, to my knowledge. But we all had good relationships with Cat at one point, except for a couple of people. And Cat kind of showed herself out of the network, to be honest. It wasn't us that did that. We didn't force her out. It was more of this thing where she kind of made a situation for herself where she couldn't stay. And to be fair, Kat is doing her own thing now. She has her own platform, and I don't think she would have any interest in being involved in this project. So there is no shade in that sense. But no, I had no intention of inviting people who have no interest in us, who don't talk to us, or who are not actively participating in the channel or have any interest in what's going on with it. So that is that. So there's no hard feelings towards those people. They're on their journeys. They're doing what they want to do. But that's the reason why they weren't included. Eden is not being included under her own requests. Eden is living her very happy life. I've had conversations with Eden very recently, and she has a great life that she lives. She just doesn't want to be included in the public eye anymore. She had me take down her videos, and I asked every girl if I could take down their videos, and after this their videos will still be hidden, because the truth is that we move on in our lives. We move on, and we don't all want our past selves painted all over the internet for everybody to see. Every single one of those thumbnails goes to Google Images, and if we ever get to a point in our lives where we're not willing to share that information with somebody, it shouldn't be forced on any of these girls. So people may have questions as to why they don't exist anymore, but the truth is they do exist. They're just privated, and they will be that way as long as they want them to be privated, and only they have access to them. So that was that. Let's see if we have another topic. I'm gonna do a couple more, then we'll do like a little chat, and then I think it's good to wrap it up. We've been talking for a minute. I want to thank the girls that stuck around.
I need to get off at 8:30, y'all.
What time is 8:30 for me?
It's
5:30 for you.
5:30. Okay, so we'll wrap it up. Let's say we'll wrap it up around 5. Okay, so last things that we're gonna talk about. Where do you guys think your lives are headed? What are your goals? Mahogany, you've talked about it a little bit. Cassidy, I don't know if you've necessarily thought about it, but where are you guys headed in life? Where can people find you? Do you guys have any projects going on? Any social media that you want to link? Those types of things. Because they're all important, and we want to make sure people can keep up with you if at all possible.
You want to go first, Cassidy?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I've been working on just in my own words, I would say it's getting my life together, getting my life started for the first time. Even in regards to, if, people were wondering, we kind of talked about it a little bit before we went live. I left the channel in a really bad state. I even told Maven, Mahogany, and Kat that, I even to this day have a lot of guilt about the way it happened, but I was so young. I was 17. I was going through things that I didn't even know at the time I was going through, mentally. And then that's why I left the internet. I think to some people who are probably seeing this, they're probably like, whoa, because this is literally the first time I'm doing anything like on the internet publicly besides my private Facebook in like 3+ years. So, and the reason I wanted to do this is because why the fuck not? You know what I mean? I love you girls, I mean, you guys meant so much to me for so long back then, especially when I was so young and stuff. And I have no problem putting myself back out there. I'm just also not trying to actively force anything. So, I have considered doing YouTube again. I've considered just kind of coming back and letting people know where I am. I know a lot of people wonder where I went. I have guilt of the way I left the internet in general for everyone. I left my channel, I left my Instagram, everything. But at the same time, I was just going through so many things at the time. I needed to be by myself. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to getting my life started and doing things. I haven't been working. I've been taking care of my parents the past few years, so I'm finally now in a place where I can start like actually working, going into the workforce, and having a little bit more of a normal life. I feel like I haven't really lived a normal life. I mean, who really does? Anyone could argue that their life isn't normal. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for school. I'm excited to start going to school for something. I don't know what yet, but it's for something. I'm excited to work. I'm excited to do all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't really have any social media still at the moment. I have my YouTube channel. It's not the same channel as it was, but it is up if anyone would like to find it. I may in the future go back to it. It's just Cassidy Campbell. It's just my name. But I may go back to it. I may put a video out. I'm not sure. I've been toying with that for the past literally 3 years that I've been off the internet. I go back and forth all the time about the idea of getting back into it. I would never get back into it to the capacity that I was before. But I've thought about just, putting up an update video basically and just things once in a while. But other than that, that's about really all I'm going for. I mean, goals with my transition, I'm at a really good place in my transition. I consider my transition to a degree over. I want other cosmetic surgeries, but I don't consider them necessary to my dysphoria necessarily. I would love to get maybe light face work done down the line. Obviously, right now I'm getting injections and going through that kind of process just for the fun of it more than anything. I would like to get some more body work done. That'd be nice. I'm not really interested in breast implants, but definitely some more shaping, some more fat transferring would be nice down the line. But for the most part, yeah, I feel like my transition is sort of over in that sense. Haven't really, I don't know, being transgender doesn't even really come up that much in my life, really, like lately. I think I was going to say it earlier, and I think my computer froze. I like to say that I'm accidentally stealth. I don't consider myself stealth. I don't live a stealth life, but at the same time, I do, just unintentionally. I live a very, I guess you'd say, normal life for the most part, like when it comes to my transition. But yeah, I just have pretty normal plans for the future.
Well, that's good. It all sounds cute. And, I think we would all be happy to see you on YouTube if you ever get the chance. I know that it's changed a lot since we've been gone. Do you know what I'm saying? So I've even toyed with that myself. It's kind of like, do I even want to come back to that if it's going to be this thing about like, it has to be beauty, it has to be competition. Because we came from a different time. A lot of us were just trying to discover who we were. And it wasn't as businessy as it is now. But Mahogany, what about you? Do you have any projects coming up? I know you said you're not acting anymore, even though people seem to agree in the comments that you're the best facial expression artist here, at least.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So the acting, you maybe shouldn't give up on the acting yet, girl. Just keep it in the back somewhere.
Yeah, it's in the back of my head. I'm still doing creative things. Now it's music. I found that I can't keep myself boxed into one creative outlet. I'm just a creative person in general. So now I make music. I'm currently working on my mixtape, um, which has been like my baby, honestly. Um, I write everything myself. I do all that. So just trying to get that together. Social media, you can find me on Instagram. It's Mahogany Rose. I don't post a lot, but I have good pictures on there, so like them.
When are we going to hear about your music?
Well, I will say this. I want my music to be done by the end of the summer. I want to be able to like have a single out and a video out by the end of
Okay.
Because honestly, a bitch is not getting any younger. And also
Girl,
there's no girl, but there's no representation. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yep.
I feel as if I can use music in a way to tell my story. In a way I was always looking to tell my story, but not only my story, but a story of many trans women, of stuff that we go to, especially being a Black trans woman in the climate that we're living in now. I want to be able to tell a story and solidify my story, because I never know what's going to happen. You get what I'm saying? But I do want my voice heard. Other than that, I've just been working, trying to get money. That's the other thing on my head. Money.
Money is a thing. Money is a
Money
thing.
is on my mind. Okay, that's all that's on my mind is money.
Still expensive to be alive.
Girl, I didn't ask for this.
Okay, I didn't ask to be born, bitch. Who's gonna pay these bills?
Take me back. Oh my
Okay,
God.
you did it. Yeet me back into the hole, bitch.
Exactly. But as far as my transition goes, I am looking forward to certain surgeries. I'm not touching my face, but I do want to get certain things on my body done. I do want to get SRS one day. It's not something I'm in a rush for, because I don't use it anyway. So it's just there. It's like conversation piece point. And I'm just trying to be the woman I always wanted to be. When I first started the Dollhouse, I found that I was pretending to be someone else. I was pretending to be somebody who I thought people would like. And now I've gotten to a point where, not that I don't give a fuck what people think, but I care about more what I think about myself when I look back on things. So I want to make myself proud. In the past on the Dollhouse, I don't think I made myself proud a lot of the time. I was doing things so certain people on the channel, not you and not Kat, who was just on, but certain people, I wanted to please them and appease them, and I wanted to make sure that they wanted to be my friend, because I put them on a pedestal as far as transitioning. So now that I have nobody else, I don't look up to no one else's transition but my own, because I saw what I did for myself. I can simply say, you know what, I'm good in that regard. I do want to start YouTube again, just because it's a great marketing tool.
Yeah.
And it's a great social media tool. So I definitely want to start YouTube again. But YouTube has changed, like you said. YouTube is a completely different monster now. And it's all about money and advertisements. And I think creativity has been put on the back burner for YouTube. You see the drama that happens all the time. Literally make money off of drama. Do you get what I'm saying? So but yeah, I want to do a lot of things. I just want to be great. I'm already great. I want to be.
Yeah, I feel you. The next level, girl. We need that next level of mahogany.
Yeah, next level up, girl. I'm trying
to level it
up.
up.
Yes, I feel like I've leveled up though. Like,
oh, you definitely have, girl.
From the girl I used to be on the Dollhouse, I was just like, girl, I used to rock that fucking weave with my little hair sticking like this. It was broken the fuck off. Look, Kat Black said many things about me. I'll just address that right now. Kat Black and I, we had our beef. I think anyone who watched the channel knew that we did not really care for each other. And people compared us a lot. But I will say she read me on one thing and it hurt my feelings when she read me, because I was like, bitch, I thought that I was getting away with it. Bitch, I don't have to wear 3 bras anymore to push my titties up to my chin, okay? I don't do shit like that anymore. I'm very happy and content with who I am as a woman. And I think that's the best prize of all.
I mean, it definitely is. And I don't even know, to be honest, I would love to one day, and I know it's first of all, selfish, but also, girl, it's California. I would love to have everybody in California for like a physical reunion, but I know that everybody lives in different parts of the world now. The only person that it might possibly happen with is Cassidy if she ever comes back for family reasons. But girl, if you ever make your way on down for those acting or singing purposes, I live in inner city Los Angeles, so
Girl,
I'm gonna be hitting a bitch up.
I'm coming to LA next year in February.
Oh, girl, come say hi then.
I'm coming for a festival, so I will definitely come say hi.
Yes, because all the girls live
To
here.
meet all of you.
And then,
yeah, I want to be able to meet all of you, especially like Maeve. We started this. You get what I'm saying? So it's just like it's very nostalgic.
The only two original members still left, honey.
We're the only two original ones left. Like we used to sit up and we sat up. We picked the backgrounds. We used to sit on Skype with you. You showed me how to like get free Skype so I could be on video calls with everyone. Like I remember all that shit. So it's just like you're my girls, you know?
And always will be. It was a gag. You know, I was very surprised, honestly, you guys were available because you can't just expect people to be available. This was not easy to put together, guys. There was lots of technical difficulties. I love all these people, but like I said, we all have our own lives. And everybody's busy, you know, like I didn't know if Cassidy, she moved away. So I was like, she might be in deep stealth, girl. I don't know what she's doing. She might be like all the way gone, like don't even talk to me. So that was a possibility. You know, Maho's always doing stuff. I'm always busy. Kat has like a full-time job and she's super busy. So the fact that you guys were even able to show up today and to do this was super cool. We had a great turnout as far as people watching, and I'm sure there will be more people watching the video later. As far as my future things, I am on Twitch, guys. I'm a Twitch streamer now, so if you guys would like to watch me play video games, my link is down below. You'll see it. It says twitch.tv/mstrssfox, which is Mistress Fox. You'll see it on my hat too. I don't really go by Maeve anymore. It's still my name, obviously. It's legally my name. But because I perform online in a sexual capacity, I have to have more than one name so that I don't ruin my own life. So I have several different names, but that's the name I go by now. So if you see me on the line, Mistress Fox, come check me out on Twitch. That would be super cool of you. Hit that follow button if you get a chance. I do that probably not as much as I should, but I'm trying to get back into it because honestly, it's a lot of fun. So if you girls ever end up in a place where you feel like maybe you want to restart and you don't want to try out YouTube again, it's another option, and you don't have to play video games. You could do a million different things. People deal tarot cards, people tell stories. There's just so many different things you can do. But yes, this has been such a good turnout. I'm so very happy with it. I'm trying to make sure that I've gotten everything from my notes before we end anything.
Real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
Say something real quick to Cassidy. I remember we used to sit on Skype late at night and we would just talk. And I want to say, I'm so happy that you're happy now. Like, I'm so happy that you're living life and you're away from all the toxic shit. Because I remember we would have deep conversations, girl. And I'm happy because you just look happy. Like, I'm happy that all of us look happy. Like, Maeve looks genuinely happy. And Maeve, back in the day, was never happy.
Girl, I wasn't wearing eyelashes. Of course I didn't know how to apply eyelashes. That's why I looked so upset all the time.
Maeve used to be like, fuck all of this. I can't. But Maeve really held everything together in the Dollhouse. I really want that to be known.
Girl, it was not easy either, y'all.
It was not easy. We used to be like, oh, we're not making videos this week, and it would only be her and one other person uploading, and she would just be like, our channel's dead, we're gonna die. But like, I just want to say, I'm extremely proud of all of you. You have really become amazing, beautiful. You really have. I'm just so proud.
The same back to you, girl. The same back to you, and
Yeah,
a big.
I was gonna say.
Before we do anything else, a big shout out to some of our fallen sisters. I just want to make sure that you guys realize, because trans people, I feel like when we lose our lives, a lot of people don't remember us the way that we want to be remembered. And it's super important. And a lot of people won't know who these people are. But a big shout out to Ruby and Giselle, who were also members of the T-Girl Network. And unfortunately, they lost their lives too early. And especially Ruby was one of those people that made the T-Girl Facebook network such a big, beautiful place. She was very loving, and she was one of those people that, like, she was friends with everybody. And I don't want anybody to ever forget her, because I feel like it's been a couple of years and people already don't talk about her, and I just want to talk about her all the time because I don't want people to just disappear. Do you know what I'm saying? I just don't want that. And I didn't know Giselle very well, so I can't speak on that, but I do hope that everybody involved in Giselle's life is, you know, at peace. Like I said, I know this may sound weird because you guys don't know who these people are, but the network was almost kind of a part of the Dollhouse because we were all from the network. So it's just something I wanted to include. They watched the Dollhouse as well. I know Ruby had seen our videos, so that's something I wanted to say. I think Cassidy had one more thing to say, but she's turned into a bunch of pixels, so I don't know. If she...
have I?
Yeah, girl, you literally, there we go.
Yeah, pixelated.
It's fine though. Most of the time you weren't. Ooh.
Oh no.
No, it looks all good. No, it was just like mahogany across 3 different tiles. That was so funny. We'll go back. We'll go back.
Iconic. I literally was just gonna say just the same back to you, Mahogany, like what you were saying. I mean, I'm so proud of you. I remember those. I remember those conversations like it was yesterday. I mean, girl, all that shit, it was crazy. And I remember you were not in like the best place yourself, you know. And it's so great to see where you are now. I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way. But it's like you literally look like a different person. I mean, you do. I mean, you just exude just so much more beauty, so much more confidence, so much more of all of that. Same with you, Maeve. I mean, you look almost different too. You know, it's just like, I don't know. We're all in such different places now. It's been so many years, but I don't know, for the best. I mean, look at us. Look what we're doing. We're doing so good, I feel like.
I think we're all doing better.
We can see Maeve's nose now. I love it.
Girl, you can't see that nose. You can't see that nose. My shit is still too bright. What are you talking about? I may not have. Okay, you know what? Let's read ourselves for a second. Because, you know, everybody else is going to come in here and try and read us. So let's read ourselves for a second. So my problem was I did not know how to apply eyelashes when I was on the Dollhouse before. If you ever saw the videos, I looked busted as fuck. Also, I was using that season 1 RuPaul filter, the one that was just glowing, girl. I literally, you couldn't even see me. I was just a figment of light and black hair, girl. That's all I was. And that was a mess, is what that was.
It's still
okay.
all you are.
Yes, girl. I will always be just a glowing figment of light, honey. Always. Yes. That's how white I am, bitch.
My God.
But yes. And I also wanted to say, since we're all saying that we love each other, I don't want anybody to make drama out of this video. I honestly have no ill intentions of not including other people. So I just want to give a quick message to Kat if she watches this, or Edie. I don't hate either one of you. I actually love both of you. We may not be friends anymore, but I still wish you well in whatever the hell it is that you're going to do in your lives. You know, good for you. If you're doing great, that's awesome. At one point, Kat was like one of my best friends. And I don't want it to ever seem like because a lot of people were like, oh, she just kicked her out of the channel because she was trying to take her money, because Kat propagated it to be like I was mainly interested in the money, and I wasn't. Like, I was just very upset about tons of videos going missing. And that was because, like, a collaboration channel, when girls start just deleting their videos, it becomes very disjointed. If you watch it back with all of those missing, it doesn't make any sense, because I'm referring to people that don't exist anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, Kat was gone and I was still talking about her in different videos. So it was frustrating. I understand why people have to leave. I didn't even mention Cassidy because I had no idea what was going on with Cassidy at the time, and I didn't even have a problem really with what Cassidy did, because Cassidy was 17. Do you know what I'm saying? At 17, I probably wouldn't delete the whole damn channel. So I don't fault Cassidy for doing that, and I also don't really care that Kat did it. She went off into her direction, and we met a new girl who was on the channel, and we moved on, and she moved on. And so there should be no bad blood between anybody. So if any of the Dollhouse people or fans of the Dollhouse that were still questioning why we ever kind of disjointed, though, that's the answer there. You know, there was no serious bad blood. It was just some petty things that kind of consumed people, and we had to break apart, because sometimes you can't always finish things together. And what we did together was great. I still have videos where I reference Kat. I made a funny ass video of her in my parody video, and those things always mean something to me. I always will love them for what they did for me. They helped me. They weren't close to Maho in the same way, but I did know those girls. So that's about it, guys. I think we're ready to wrap up. If you have any other final goodbyes. Also, Eden, I love you wherever you are if you watch this. I've always loved you, Eden. I've always loved you. I'm trying to think of anybody else that's been on the channel. Kelly, thank you for stopping by, since you were somebody who was on the channel, so that's super cool.
Shout out to Kelly. Shout out to You know, oh my gosh, real quick, Maeve, do you remember Way?
Lay. I kind of remember the
Way.
name. Way. Oh,
I know who you're talking about.
are you talking about Y?
Why? Is her name Y?
Y. Her name was Y. Y Lita was her
Y.
name. Yeah.
Do you remember Y?
I do remember her, of course. Yeah, I remember her.
Yes. I want to say she still makes YouTube videos.
She does?
So, like, yeah, she does.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Her sister, she still makes YouTube videos. So I'm gonna say shout out to her because at one point she was gonna be on the Dollhouse too, and we were. she was a prospective member.
Girl, every time we try to bring everybody in, there was always drama. When I brought Cassidy in, it was like the biggest drama in the world. Like,
I remember there was so much stuff around that, and it was literally as simple as, like, I don't even remember. I think maybe it was through Mahogany, and like Mahogany, like maybe me and you became friends, and then you like were talking about the whole Dollhouse stuff, and I'd seen the channel, and then I literally was just like, oh well, I'll do it, I guess. Like I can do it.
they made it sound like I want to be clear, Kat, if you're watching this, I want you to understand, and other people, whoever thought they were replaced or whatever the situation was, people want to act like we went behind their backs and we're like having conversations with Cassidy secretly in a dungeon somewhere. Like, we're going to replace this bitch. We're going to kick her out the channel. We've been waiting for 3 months to replace her.
And then it did not help that apparently, I swear I will put my hand on a Bible, I had no idea that it was like such a thing, like a signature thing. But when my very first video on the channel, I had a fan, and I just had it because I had a fan, and I was like, oh, how funny would it be if I was like, you know, the fan in my face and reveal and be like, guess who it is? And apparently that was taken as literally like an atomic bomb that I sent, because apparently that was Kat's thing, was her fan. And
She had a fan?
I guess it was like a thing. Some other people told me that, and they thought I was shading her with that.
I mean, it's
Especially 'cause it was
possible.
my very first video.
Yeah.
And it was so, oh my God, I felt so bad. Especially because, I mean, we talked about it a little bit off camera, but I mean, I'll say it if Kat's watching. I mean, I was very confused by kind of my personal falling out with Kat, because it was over something that was so like what? Like it was just
And just on the other side, Cassidy had nothing to do with us recruiting her. Like nothing. Like we went out and like asked her, and it was after we kicked Kat out of the group, to be fair. And Kat knew why. She may not have agreed, but she knew why. And anybody else would have been kicked out for what Kat did, to be fair. I'm not going to repeat it because it's old drama, it doesn't matter. But the point is that like Cassidy had nothing to do with anything. Like, to be fair, I didn't even think Cassidy was going to be interested, because at the time Cassidy was pretty busy. Do you know what I'm saying? To be fair, and we weren't like a huge collaboration channel. It just happened to be something that she watched and she wanted to be involved in. I was just as flattered that she wanted to be involved, but they made it to be out this thing like, oh, they're getting Cassidy because she's getting a lot of attention right now, and they want to replace Kat and try to make this into something else. And I'm just like, girl, Cassidy was around, and I was tired of replacing people. I just picked a girl that I thought would be good, that people would be interested in. Like, I don't understand. People just want to make things to be so crazy that they're not.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the conversations that Cassidy and I would have before she was even on the Dollhouse, and I would tell her about what was going on. And she was interested in it herself. And it was just like, girl, we're kicking someone to the curb. What's good? Like, come on. It was never like, oh, we're gonna go behind her back. It was a conspiracy, and
yeah,
a lot of that was other people's insecurities and people's projections onto how they felt about themselves, onto other people and us. But like Maeve said, and I want to make this very clear because I was a person who had beef with people. Okay,
probably the most out of anybody was you, which is funny because like I don't feel like you're that dramatic up front. Like I don't.
Not, it's just I'm very blunt and I'm very straightforward, and I don't want to be like cheesy and be like, well, when I have a friend I care about them a lot, but it's the truth. I do. If I see something, just the same way I would want somebody to tell me. Do you get what I'm saying? Maybe you have read me on many times on shit, and I've read you. It's just like it's a back and forth, but we still care about each other, and we're still friends to this day. Like there's never been like horrible blood because we can handle it. But to Kat and to Edie, to both of you, I have no bad blood with you. Kat, I really wish you well. I really do. I wish you well in every endeavor that you do. I wish your art propels and you excel in everything. Edie, whatever you're doing, I hope that you become the best anime character you could be in life. And I really want everyone to be successful. So yeah, that's it.
A quick shout out, real quick, to Jane, who is in the chat. Jane was in androgenetics, and I believe transitioned afterwards.
I love androgenetics. Oh
I love
my
Yeah.
god.
it. I love androgenetics.
I love all the girls. I still watch some of the girls from it. Oh my god.
Yeah, a couple of the girls transitioned, and I very much still follow them. I very much still love them. Androgenetics became, I think it came before the Dollhouse, to be quite honest. And I watched Androgenetics and the predecessor of Androgenetics before anything. Like, I watched. There was one. I think there was a group, and I'm gonna say the word. Don't be mad at me, but there was one that was like called like Five Awesome Trannies. I'm pretty sure none of them were trans. They were all like boys that were in makeup. They might be trans now, but at the time they were definitely boys in makeup, and that was the thing. So yeah, I'm glad that you guys are still around. I hope everything's going well for you, Jane. I hope you guys are all doing good. From another collab to you guys, I hope that you guys are doing amazing. But yes, I think that's all I have, so I think we're good. I think this will be us wrapping it up for the day, guys. Thank you so much for everybody who came in and chatted. A big thank you to everybody who came from Twitch for me to say hi and to see what I was doing over here. And to everybody who supported the Dollhouse. I've had so many people over the years asking about these girls. Oh shit, I'm so sorry, I just changed the page. 1 second, please. There we go. There's been so many people asking over the years about Cassidy and Mahogany and Kat and all of these other different people, and now you guys know what's happening, what's going on. From now on, I will maybe be uploading on this channel. I'm not sure. It may not be called the Dollhouse. I was the one that mainly put this channel together, and I was the one that mainly did all the graphics and everything, and I asked them kindly and nicely to have the channel. I did not take it from them, and I will be uploading my own content on it, so I don't want anybody to think that there was any bad blood. I asked for permission, and I also asked for permission to hide their videos because they wanted that. So beyond that, I don't think I really have a whole lot else to say. Please check me out on twitch.tv/mstrssfox. I will be streaming tonight on Twitch as well. And I just love you girls. I hope that you do great and everything that you have in the future. And I hope that we talk maybe a little bit more. I just think that we're all very busy, but that doesn't mean that I can't message you guys more often. And you know, maybe in another 5 years we'll do this. See where we're at again.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you guys so much. See you next time. Mwah. And then for Catherine and Nora, they say bye too. Thank you guys for coming in. See you later, guys. Ending stream now.